The opinions expressed by the panel members on the following program do not necessarily represent those of this station, its management, the Windy City Hometown Network, or anyone else in the universe, be he living or deceased. Once again, we would bid you welcome to Meet the Chicago Historians, our monthly examination of all things about our city in the garden and all of our neighbors in the greater Chicagoland metropolitan area. Now, to start things off, here's the guy who started it all, Mr. John DeVita.
Well, thank you, Tom. From the John DeVita Broadcast Center, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another broadcast of Meet the Chicago Historians on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network on Monday, September 16th, the year 2013. Today's panel will be talking about the history of the American Indians in Chicago and, of course, much, much more. So sit back and enjoy Meet the Chicago Historians. And now to start today's program, here is our announcer, Mr. Tom. Good afternoon, Tom.
Today's a very special show, being our annual autumnal equinox program. So hang on to your calendar, synchronize your watches, and prepare for equal hours of daylight and darkness. And to assist you through this difficult time, here's our panel moderator, Jack Stopwatch Ryan.
Good afternoon, or is it maybe morning where you're listening to us? Once again, I say this every time, but it is a beautiful day. John, oh, you started the clock. Okay, I was going to say. Very good. We're on the clock, folks. We're all on the clock now, remember. Everybody punched in, right?
Yes.
Everybody punched in? Yeah, and we, first off, before we say anything else, let's remember a loss to Chicago last week, and Chicago Broadcasting in particular, with the passing of Don Wade, who had suffered from a brain tumor. And this guy was, I don't know how many people he got through the morning over the years, and they had other shows. I know they've been on, 27 years in the morning here or something like that?
Yeah, at least.
Don Wade and Roma, his wife.
Yeah.
And they mentioned about their son was either a naval aviator or an Air Force aviator. He was in Iraq and Afghanistan. I remember he was active there, and their last name was Hobson. So the real last name is Hobson.
Yeah,
so.
his name was Hunter, and he was with the
that's right.
Blue Angels.
Well, then that's Navy, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's Navy. So anyway, someone like him, they just don't come along very often, and they people liked about him regardless of whatever the politics were. He was one of the tell it like it is type of guys. I remember the morning I was heading down, still in the police department, I was heading down to the medical section, which was in the headquarters, and I heard about the first plane going, and so that's where I was. And shortly thereafter, the next plane goes into the other tower, and the announcer with him, the news guy, says, apparently, possibly, he says, what do you mean possibly? It's obvious that they were both coordinated attack on it. He just interjected like that, and that's what people like to hear, I think. So anyway, our condolences to his family, and wherever we are, Don, R.I.P. And what else we have? We always talk about a little, before we get into the subjects, we have a guest today, Mr. Spencer. What's your first name?
Dave.
Dave Spencer from the American Indian Center, which is located uptown Wilson and Ashland?
Yes, sir.
Right over there, not too Wrigleyville?
Yeah, a little north.
Yeah.
A little north.
Yeah, and where else? And you are what? What is your function, or what is your position there?
I'm the director of development. I'm basically the glorified grant writer.
Glorified. I mean, you mean by development, you mean you have to seek funds and
yes,
sponsors and whatever?
Well, we're in competition with every other nonprofit in Chicago and regionally, nationally for grant opportunities. We have direct service programs, social services, food pantry, education programs.
More to that later. We'll get back to you later. We'd like to take the first half hour or so, and we talk about what current events, what's going on here and there, and nationally, internationally, and locally, which is always a lot of fun because there's always something going on locally here. I see the mayor apologized for the crimes of Lieutenant Burge, and they managed to put him back on the Sun-Times last week on the front page. Whenever they talk about, well, by the way, what are the shootings like over the weekend? Anyone ever know? We have.
No, the only shooting they got right now is the Naval Yards in Washington D.C.
Yeah.
Where I don't know how many, anywhere from 0 to 6 were killed,
A sniper out there. I heard something about that this morning. Yeah.
and so they're up and uproar. They got the helicopters going and 3 different types of police. And
So
all
that's
those.
right now what's going on. Yeah.
Hopefully, I think it's quieted down now because I think they caught the guy or shot him, one or the other.
Well,
Just to back up for a second, talking about our mayor apologizing, I always like it when someone apologizes for something that they have had absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with. It's always interesting. How do you apologize for something that you had absolutely nothing to do with? Where did that come from? Gee, do you think it might be political? Is there a possibility that this might be politics involved here?
Not here in Chicago, Tom.
I mean, you know, I mean,
He's got a lot to apologize for, but that's not one of them.
you know, I want to go on record as I'm apologizing for starting the Civil War. You know, what do you want to apologize for? I mean, I probably had more to do with that than our mayor had to do with.
how about Attila's attack on Rome?
Yeah, that's good. That's good too.
Oh, I shot Jimmy Hoffa.
Oh,
so
okay.
I can't.
Are you going to tell us where he's buried, or?
No,
Oh, okay.
no.
We have another guest with us, author. I'm sorry, give us your name again.
My name is Matthew Drew.
And
The title of my book is called Shadows of Chicago. The subtitle is The True Story of Three Men and the Crimes That Shocked America. It's a story of Big Jim Horan, Charles Comiskey, and Mayor Fred Busey, who were friends about the same time as the Chicago fire. It's a Chicago historical book, and it shows how crime had caused a lot of problems in their lives and pretty much it caused their demise. And as you guys have been talking about, Chicago history is just the exact same thing as it is today. Crooked politicians, problems with sports industry, and problems with the safety of fire department and other members of our community.
What do you do for a living, Matt?
I'm an active Chicago firefighter, and I teach for the University of Illinois. I teach fire science.
okay, is that you're in Chicago, right? What they used to call the Circle, or
Yes, well, we work through Circle. Most of the time it works out of Champaign, and you teach out of the Fire Academy.
Oh, it's an extension course then.
It is an extension
Is it?
course, yes.
okay, but it still counts credit-wise, doesn't it?
No, this is for firefighters and continuing their education.
All continuing education. And they have so much online now. You can sit at home with the soap operas on and be doing your college work. You know.
Well, some of the problems are that you can do your liberal arts online. However, when it gets to practical science,
Nah, you're right. You don't even have to make a face there, Al. It's I can't see that going.
no, you can do some homework on line
Yeah.
stuff like that. But, that's
But then you
about
got to
it.
wonder who's doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's part
Who
of it.
do I copy off of?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But anyway, getting back to the mayor, this makes me think of how many months ago did we have that? Or was that last year? The tirade on Chick-fil-A.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, that was another thing. That was well, hey, maybe I can apologize for this too. When was it our mayor or our alderman said we the citizens of the city of Chicago that's not our type of values. I guess insinuating that our values are not heterosexual marriage. So this is an excellent opportunity for me to apologize as a married man being married to a female.
Shame on you.
Right? Yeah.
How quaint.
Yeah. Right.
No, what's marriage?
Yeah. I'm apologizing. I mean, the audacity to apologize and say that these aren't our values.
I'm just
Heterosexual marriage isn't a value
Again, Tom,
in the city
politics.
of Chicago.
Politics.
Well,
I'm just wondering how our educational mayor can shut down 50 schools, restrict the hours on the library, and still expect kids to be educated.
Well, the schools, I can answer it. Tom could tell you. We had, where we used to work, very heavily densely population, the old second district. Like there was supposedly like close to 400,000 people living between 35th and 60th, Dan Ryan, Cottage Grove. We had the big housing projects there, Robert Taylor, Ida B. Wells, Stateway. Yeah. But not just there. So you had schools, 2 or 3 within a little area, which were all grade schools or whatever, and that's why they shut a lot of them down. It's not that they're wastefully. What's
You might say it was like the tavern business here in Chicago too.
Yeah.
Every block had a tavern,
At least one.
and there was a church every 2 blocks. So
Canariville had 3 or 4 taverns on a block.
Well, the other thing though is the schools now. The problem comes in is they have the so-called charter schools, which sucks a lot of students away from the schools. And I'm not sure what the situation is with the charter schools there. But right now, I just read this morning the president of UNO resigned, and I'm not sure why. But,
well, the charter schools were just the medium, the betwixt of the Chicago public schools and the Catholic schools.
Yeah, but the fact is they're drawing away from the public schools.
And it's making a lot of people money.
That's right there.
That's where it's at right
Friends
there.
of Rahm Emanuel
Yeah.
do wonders.
Exactly.
Well, you got to wonder if it's too early to actually pass judgment on the idea, because there certainly has to be some improvement on. I mean, you got kids going to school, and the worst schools are in the worst need of some kind of discipline, and they when their behavior cries out for it, and the opposite happens. It just gets looser and looser.
There's no discipline at all.
You got to look at the hierarchy of this high school system, though. You got 3 select enrollment schools. Then you got the magnet schools,
Mm-hmm.
and then you got the regular schools, and then you got the dregs, what's left over.
Yeah.
And the trouble is, places like Austin lost all their good students, all their good teachers, and now they're complaining about, now they closed the place down and made 6 schools out of it or something like that.
They closed Austin down?
They closed it, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they reinstituted it.
Yeah.
And then they have nerve enough, he has nerve enough to say that we are graduating more people than ever before, but none of them can speak or read or write.
Hey, Bill,
or
how
think.
about this? They're proud of a 65% graduation rate.
Yeah.
Proud of it.
Yeah.
Proud of it. It's up. Yeah,
And I bet you 40%
that's like-
of that can't read
That's
and
like
write.
that's like a football coach telling the alumni, "Well, we only lost by 65 points. I mean, it's really not that bad. Last week we lost by 100 points."
Well, the other thing on that too is the fact that you're teaching the test rather than teaching a living.
Yeah.
And some of the schools now, they don't have any shops. Their Lane Tech just wanted to go and close their architectural department down, and they got lambasted about that because a lot of good architects came out of Lane Tech. You have no shops there. You got
Who do you have to teach those?
I don't know.
You don't have
They also
anybody to
lost-
teach them.
They lost 30 staff members by the cutbacks.
You got a lot of private, for-profit schools now.
Yeah.
And DeVry is, I'm surprised at them. They are really shot up. They just shot up in business, and one of the better schools around.
Well,
And that just started as a
Belmont
one-room
Avenue.
place to fix TV sets
Yeah, it was on
to replace
Belmont.
bulbs.
It was on Belmont Avenue. Still got
Yeah, I
building
know
there.
the people that started it, the Lefebvres.
TV repairman.
Yeah.
When Tom and I got out of St. Rita in 1964, we had, before they even called him spokesman, at our junior senior assembly, who do we get to come speaking about DeVry? Jack Dempsey. He gives a little talk, a little blah, 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 whatever, about his days, and you got a great school here, and you got a great religion. I was brought up in a Mormon religion myself. Do you know he was a Mormon? So anyway, I didn't know that till then. But anyway, it was all about DeVry, and DeVry was known
Just
then.
starting out.
I don't know
then.
where their
Jack
campus
Dempsey was a
then.
good friend of Mr. Lefebvre,
That's what it was?
and Theodore J. Lefebvre was the guy that started that, And I met Jack Dempsey when I was in high school and that with his kid. And there was another boxer too that used to come around, but that's the way they started.
Who's that?
Huh?
Who's the boxer?
I can't think of his name.
Well, the thing
Dempsey
too,
was the guy that we all,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
you know, you had to see him.
the enrollment rate of colleges goes up considerably when we have a recession, because if people know they have to train to get new jobs, and they have no jobs there as it is, so they go to school to learn. Not everybody does this, but this is Wright College right now.
Well, I
is
hope
full.
you're right, Al, because I got 2 grandsons in college now. I hope
Well,
they're-
Wright College
that
is
idea.
full. They claim they got full capacity right now. And,
University of Illinois said that they have what, 60,000 that just
Yeah.
enrolled for this year, the biggest enrollment ever.
Well, that's part of the reason.
Yeah.
But you know, the trouble is, a college education doesn't guarantee a job.
No, it doesn't.
But
No,
the trouble
or-
is, there's
or-
so much media
doesn't.
out there that's insinuates that if you get a degree, you're going to get a job. But there's a lot of people out there that got the wrong degree.
Listen,
There
my
you go.
dad, I want to be a veterinarian,
Well, lots of luck.
trying to get in there.
I mean, you don't eat meat?
And where I end up 46 years later in the fire department.
Yeah.
So,
I
you
wanna be a
know, no, it
scientist.
doesn't guarantee a job. And why send your kid to school and pay all that money when all he's going to do is drive a truck for the rest of his life?
Well, the other thing too, it's easier to
My
be
apologies to the teams.
Yeah.
it's easier to be an MD than it is a veterinarian.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Why is that?
It's a lot more schooling to be a vet.
Yeah.
What,
you know, our-
talking about education, our president, I don't know if you heard this, he suggested that they lower, this, I must preface this is not a joke. He said that they should reduce law school from 3 years to 2 years. And, you know, I really wasn't a big fan of our president prior to this, but after he mentioned something like that, I said, well, this is just exactly what this country needs, more lawyers.
more lawyers and less doctors.
Right. I mean, can you reduce it from 3 years to 2 years? I think they should increase it to about 10 years.
Yeah.
You, per capita, the amount of attorneys we in Cook County, per capita, I mean, you can't fall down without landing on an
What's your
attorney that's
story?
passing his card out to you.
What's the story you told about the white rats?
Yeah, they're Yeah, this is a true story too. They are replacing laboratory rats with attorneys, and they're doing it for 3 reasons. One, there are more attorneys than there are laboratory rats. 2, that the technicians don't get as attached to the attorneys as they got to the rats. And 3, there were just some things that the rats wouldn't do.
I gotta remember that one time.
My apologies to all my friends that are attorneys.
Yeah, when you need one.
No, why
it's like
apologize?
it's like a cop when you need one.
Actually, I think an attorney told me that joke.
But
That's good. That's good because I work for quite a few attorneys.
Well, there's some legitimate attorneys out there, and other ones are. Well, they state that attorneys, in order to make money when they graduate from school, one is have a father that's already an attorney, so you can get right into the practice. 2 is you got to come from a school, Harvard, nothing else, in order to get a job as an attorney. 3 is just to be damn lucky. And 4th, you're out there being a clerk.
and 5th, you need an uncle that's a politician.
Well, my favorite is the commercial for the law firm for personal injury accidents, and they said, "You may not know you're hurt." Yeah, gee, I thought I was fine until I saw the attorney. I had no idea how messed up I was.
How do we get
I
off of this?
walked into the
there.
law office, and they took me out in an ambulance.
so I got to ask our guests a couple of questions, and when we were talking local stuff. Dave Spencer, are you a local Chicago boy, or
Yes, born and raised.
where'd you go to school?
I went to the public school system. I grew up in Wicker Park.
Mm-hmm.
I attended school formerly known as Kosciuszko. Now it's Lozano. And I went to high school at William H. Wells.
Well, Wells High School.
Wells High
was-
School,
That's where I took the exam for the police department.
Oh, is that right?
You weren't there. That was in '67.
Oh no, I was
It
the
was-
80s.
It was postponed because of the big snow that weekend. I said to my dad, "How am I going to get down there? How am I going to get down there?" Dad, the city's buried. They'll call. We're gonna. Sure enough, then came through. So what year did you get out of there? Figuring.
I finished high school in '85.
So you're a young man, young man, very young man.
Oh, not so young.
That's okay.
Comparatively.
No, I'd say you sound younger all the time.
Anybody's young to you.
Same here. And Matt,
Yes.
are you a local guy?
Yeah, I live in the Beverly neighborhood.
And you went to school.
I went to Marist High School.
Marist, okay.
Graduated in 1990. I'm 41 years old.
Okay, I have my daughter, older girl, went to graduated Maria in 1990. The younger one graduated in Mother Macaulay in '93, and they both graduated in Notre Dame. I was telling someone they were talking about that. My kids both went to Notre Dame, but they didn't play football. I said, yeah. Michelle graduated in Michelle '97 and Jennifer in '99. So anyway, yeah, Marist, good. And you had a recent. Did you have a recent name change? Was it Red Hawks from?
Redskins to Red
Red
Hawks,
Hawks, okay.
to be less politically or more politically
Yeah.
correct.
I think that's a good subject.
We're going to get to
Bring
that.
it up,
We're going to get to that.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that stuff. We got plenty to say. We're still on our general Chicago thing, though. There must be something else that's going on. Oh, how are our safe travel zones doing? Does anyone know? Any reports about that?
Well, they had about 3 killings that I know of anyway.
Yeah, they found out that there were a lot of registered sex offenders in some of those zones.
Probably walking the kids to school.
But you asked first of all about how many killings and shootings over the weekend, and was it last weekend or this weekend? There were 7 deaths and 22 shootings or something. We don't have enough ambulances to take care of all of these things.
Well, they
Yeah.
said they're down 25%, so I don't know. I guess they're trying to figure it out now.
It's a subject that we probably get on every time we do this discussion, but our city, I don't know where they are. We're budgeted for 13,500 police. Well, they must be the secret police. I don't see any. Do you would have more evidence of them? I mean,
Well, they moved them all to the 16th to the 13th and 14th districts. Is that what it is?
well, one day they're going to come up with a new idea: a one district, 3 sector city for the whole thing. So we just have 3 sectors in one district. So
Well, pretty soon they're going to send firemen as policemen, and since we're already walking kids to school,
Oh, yeah?
that's what the fire department is doing right now. And
Oh, yeah, that's right. The firehouses that are on the safe passage routes.
safe passage
that's
route,
part of
yes, is part of our assignment now. And
It's part of the job.
How long is that going to be for, Matt, did they say?
well, they said 6 months, or it's going to be the entire year. So I don't think things are going to change within 6 months.
No.
Those firemen are going to be cold in winter.
Well, I think you're pretty much used to that stuff, aren't you?
The cold stuff?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Which is better, the hot or the cold? What do you think?
I guess the cold, because once you get inside, it's pretty comfy in there.
You can easier to get warmer than
Yeah,
to
it's
try to
easy to get
stay
warmer.
cool. We had a
You can always put on more clothes.
Yeah.
last week when you dropped me off, Tom. We had a hazmat thing at the school right across at St. Daniel's. The woman next door in the house put several things down her drain and mixed up some fumes. So we pull up. There's like 4 or 5 fire vehicles. The hazmat team was
Yes.
in the team when they were there.
Might have been Matt.
Were you?
I was off that day, but
You were there.
I know the story. Yes.
Oh, you know the story, yeah. So the guys are walking around, all bundled up, and I said, "My God, how do you do this? All the heat right now, day like that." But I know they were there for a long time. Channel 7 minicam came by briefly and left. I don't know, and even made the news.
I worked outside remember that real cold winter we had? It was like 15 below.
I do remember that.
Yeah, I was outside, and you walk outside, you're dressed, you can hardly move. Because you got 3 sets of long johns on
Yeah.
and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And the trouble is, when you walk inside, you got a 100-degree change in temperature.
Yeah, you can't stay in too long. I remember the 3-wheeling weather like that.
And how would you like to get wet and go around like that, too?
Well, the clothes I had on didn't acclimate to wet weather.
Depends on what you mean by getting wet.
And I would like to officially apologize for that cold stretch.
We had a couple like that. We had
Stretch
that
of
one
cold.
was like in
It
1977.
was entirely my fault. I take full
And there was like
responsibility.
2 weeks of 20 below or something like
Yeah.
that. And we had that one coldest night in history.
I
It
was
was
working.
later in the 80s, early 80s, or I think it was early 80s. Or
Yes, it was.
Yeah,
we
was
had
it?
we had
All
the
right.
new fire commissioner from San Francisco, and when
Oh.
it got that cold, Billy Boy took off to California, and
It didn't come back.
the city almost burned down. Good Lord,
I remember
Blair. Bill, I'm trying to
Oh,
think
yeah,
of the name.
yeah, Blair.
Bill Blair. Yeah,
We
yeah.
had a
Wash him down the building. Blair.
Who hired him? Who was mayor?
Jane Byrne.
Oh, Jane.
Jane Byrne.
I remember we
It
had
was
a-
after the strike, and he was going to be here to straighten things out.
was she punishing you or punishing him by bringing him here in the winter?
Well, it wasn't him. He had a good salary.
Yeah.
Punishing us.
Yeah.
But the one of the things we had a substation in the plant, and it froze. So it's arcing over, and you got 4140 arcing across. You got a big spark going across the sky, and it had an automatic reset. So every time it reset, you had another spark. You had another, like a flash of lightning across. It's a guy- and it was really wild because they had it on the radio and everything else, and but it shut the plant down. The place froze up for about 2 months, and they fired everybody there because the weather was your fault.
We have a caller. Where was this plant?
At Coppers, 39th and Pershing Road. 39th and Laramie, I'm sorry.
Okay. Which is Cicero, isn't it?
That's just wrong.
Cicero. Cicero. Yeah. Pershing Road. Who was that named after?
General Pershing,
Blackjack?
Blackjack Pershing.
World War One?
There you go.
Yeah.
Philippines. He had some good history in Philippines.
Yes, he did, yeah. And he was head of the Rainbow Division going over in World War One.
Yeah.
People see Rainbow Beach, they probably don't know, but that's named after the World War One American Expeditionary Force, which was dubbed the Rainbow Division because from all parts of the country.
There's a monument out in I don't know if that'd be Park Ridge or where it is, right off of Rand Road, just on that subject.
Mm-hmm.
I was being Park Ridge or Des Plaines.
I've got a couple of medals that he presented to my uncle, my uncle, guy was named after, who was killed in his division.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 11th hour of the First World War.
Oh, he was toward the end of it. He was.
Yeah, yeah. They had, in fact,
Yeah.
we had heard that they had already called the war off,
Mhm.
and they were still out there fighting.
The 11th hour, the 11th day, of the 11th month.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Which we used to call Armistice Day. Now it's Veterans Day, of course.
yeah,
The war to end all wars, by the way, right?
Yeah. It
yeah.
started,
Supposed to.
Treaty of Versailles started World War II.
That was just waiting in the wings then.
Yeah, no, I was still waiting. I was
Just
no
waiting
waiting.
there were someone like Hitler was just waiting for them to come along, of course.
Well, but the he would. I guess he made it one trip to Philippines because I think it took MacArthur 6 trips from the boat to the shore in order to make it aboard.
What do you mean he was being filmed?
Yeah.
They used to do that for the Signal Corps. They would like one take, or they can.
No, he took about 6 takes. He was
Yeah.
a showman,
Oh, sure. Well, they all are. You know.
not like MacArthur.
Remember the line in Patton where the Germans are looking at the captured film, and they got Patton. They're showing a couple of takes where he comes in, at least pointing this way and that way. And the next one is of Carl Malden as what's his name again? General Bradley.
Bradley.
Homer
Omar.
Bradley. Homer. So he says, "Oh, look at him! Looks so unpretentious." And one guy behind the general says, the captain says, "Very unusual for a general." Oh, sorry. But that's the truth, though. They would do that. That's not to be expected. When you look at back, like you, Dave, are you familiar with the old series Victory at Sea?
No.
Well, look it up or get it. You can even get it on.
Yeah, that was a great
YouTube,
series.
one of the
And
best.
Tremendous.
The
It's like-
musical, the
How
musical
many
score.
parts?
It's
Oh, that
on
alone.
Won award.
It's on
26
DVD,
parts, I think
yeah.
it is, half hours.
Yeah.
So we're NBC, 1951, and you're familiar, right?
No,
Matt?
not-
No? Oh.
Oh, that was good.
Well, look it up.
That's a good one.
You can,
It's a
Let's see.
DVD. You can get it on probably on Amazon.
You
Probably
can get them on YouTube. Every episode is on YouTube.
Oh, who wants to watch it for 6 hours on YouTube though?
Well, a half hour at a time. You don't want to watch the whole thing.
You know, you're
But it is.
talking about the Signal Corps. I just found out the other day this fire that they had in New Jersey.
Yes.
I lived there, just north of there, in Long Branch. And
Was this
and-
during Prohibition?
No.
Okay.
And I went to Fort Monmouth. That's where our school was. It was all specialized stuff there, and they shut it down after 9/11. They were afraid that they were going to hit that school, and that was a lot of technical stuff in there, technical school, and they shut the place down, and it's still shut down. It was a beautiful place.
Oh, someone told me 9/11 is a lie.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
mhm.
You
So
know,
that's all-
you know who that was? Tom.
What's that?
Come on, 9/11. Aren't you sorry
I-
about
Thank
that?
you. I would like to go on record as officially apologizing
I was
for
gonna say-
9/11.
Tell that was a lie to all the people who lost someone there. And
Yeah.
and the whole fire company, am I correct?
That's right.
Yep.
It was my.
No, wait.
343.
It was all
Come on.
my fault.
Yeah.
Yeah, we lost the biggest loss.
But you know, when we're talking about the military now, you know, in the great, you know, I don't know if you would want to call them the glory days, but now our military is a social experiment. One thing that I had to laugh about, the dramatic increase in the rise of sexual harassment complaints. They take a group of very, you know, healthy young men, 18, 19, 20, 21 years old, and they inject into that group females.
nice looking.
And yeah, and again, healthy young females and sexual harassment.
What
I'm
do they
sho-
expect?
I'm shocked.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely shocked. You know, I bought a cat the other day, and then I bought a dog, and the dog actually attacked the cat too. I mean,
How can he
yeah,
do that?
yeah. I mean, it's just baffling to me how stuff like that happens.
Like trying to get, being surprised, but if you try to get better reception on your radio by sitting in the bathtub with it.
Right, exactly.
Tom?
We're going to take a short break, and we will be back shortly.
Very good. And I apologize for that.
Exhibitors Carpet Service has changed their name to Carpet Warehouse at 4300 West Montrose Avenue in Chicago, and their new location at 440 North Sheridan Road in Highwood, Illinois, called Carpet of Highwood. Stop in at Carpet Warehouse at 4300 West Montrose Avenue, and their phone number is area code 773-283-0100, or at 440 North Sheridan Road in Highwood, and that phone number is area code 847-266-1400. For carpets in your living room, dining room, bedroom, den, or family room, stop in at either location for a great deal. Once again, Carpet Warehouse, 4300 West Montrose Avenue, phone number 773-283-0100 in Chicago, or Carpet of Highwood, located at 440 North Sheridan Road, and the phone number out there is 847-266-1400. Remember, if you need a carpet for your living room, dining room, bedroom, den, or family room, stop in at 4300 Montrose Avenue. Once again, the phone number is area code 773-283-0100, or at 440 North Sheridan Road in Highwood. And the phone number out there is 847-266-1400. 1400. That's Exhibitors Carpet. For a great deal, stop in and tell them that you heard it on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network.
Okay, welcome back to our show, and now I'm turning it back over to Jack Red Ryan.
Moomy, before we get on to the regular subjects, we have one more thing, and we always like to talk about our favorite museum that we endorse here. It's the Fire Museum of Greater Chicago. Bill Kugelman, former director, and you're still involved with it, am I correct?
Oh, yeah.
What's going on over there?
Well, we have an open house on the 28th. It's the last Saturday of the month. And from 10 to 2 at 5218 South on Western Avenue. And we've just signed a new lease with the city, 10-year lease, and we will, it'll go before the city council soon. But thank you very much, Alderman Burke, our benefactor, and we couldn't do it without him.
Yeah, we seen him the other day at the game.
Oh, yes.
We seen him there.
Yeah.
See, we do say good things about politicians.
They're
Rarely.
very rare.
Rarely, but we do.
Rarely.
I'm going to apologize for you saying that.
Yeah. No, we couldn't do it without him, and he's been a benefactor of ours for a long time.
If you've ever seen it,
Ed's
have
a
you
good
seen the
guy.
museum?
I have. Yeah, it's a great place
Isn't
to
it
visit.
beautiful way they've redone everything there, and that fire engine is just looks like it'd go right out for service now. It's so beautiful, you would want to do it, right?
We have a big thing going, and one of the benefactors is the museum. Another one is John DeVita's baby, the 511 Club, the canteen service, and the other benefactor is the chaplains ministry, and that is called the CFD Charities Inc. I hope Matt belongs to that and contributes to that. I've given a lot of money. I won't say how because maybe an IRS agent is listening to these three organizations, and it all comes from payroll deduction of the firemen or any city employee or anybody
Can donate.
and anybody can donate through the BMO Harris Bank. So and it's been good. We've given those three organizations some good bucks now. And
How about the EMWQ, the Widows and Orphans Fund?
they wanted to get in on this, Matt. I had offered that to them when I started this, and no, they didn't want to. They didn't want to get in, or the gold badge ladies and that. They didn't get in on it, so we're kind of floundering along, and a couple of our board members always mention the now I can't think of it, Rich Pinsky's group, Knights, no, not the Knights, the Ignite the Spirit.
Okay.
And they seem to have some real good fundraisers, but we're looking for monies always, like everybody else. We have 20 antique rigs in storage, and it's just a damn shame that we don't have a place like a big car dealership that we can show these off. And
There's got to be a place here.
Oh yeah, there's got to be.
There's plenty of places around, but they want money.
They want money, right? And we're looking for an angel. We're looking for somebody. That,
Believe me, there's a lot of angels out there. If you ever hear of Diamond, who owned Chase Bank, and he helped get the cameras for the fire department.
That's right.
I mean, there's guys out there that are fire
Yeah.
fans and want to help the fire department and would do this. There are people out there.
Jamie did a good thing there, but that's it. You got to hit somebody like that. I would love to meet this Zell guy. I forget what his first name is.
Sam.
Sam Zell, yeah. Guy with
He screwed up the
Big
review.
pockets.
Yeah, he screwed
Yeah.
up the review.
Deep ones, huh?
I don't care who he screwed, just so he gets us the money. You can't judge something like that, Al.
That's funny you mentioned. I'm so glad that you were able to get as far as you were with your museum. There were at least two groups that we had.
For the police.
We're trying to. Joe Pecoraro's one. He had to wind up going
Yeah.
to Springfield. Well, Joe's dead. I don't know what they're doing with that now. But
All that stuff is stored in Springfield.
is it? Why would they have to go to Springfield?
They're getting ready to open the museum in the National Museum, Police Museum in Washington D.C. It's right across the street from the Police Memorial.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good.
they've been working on that for.
Yeah, that's
for
really
years. I
something to
think-
see.
I think it's going to be open for the next memorial in May.
Well, Tom and your brother Dennis, you go about every year, don't you?
Yeah, we go every year. We played. Well, originally I played with the Police Drum and Bugle Corps, and then I played with the Pipes and Drums of the Emerald Society, and then when they formed the All Chicago Police Pipe Band, the Pipes and Drums of the Chicago Police Department, I was a founding member of that group, and then we were going to Washington D.C. every year. The Emerald Society wasn't going that much. The Pipes and Drums of the Chicago Police Department they have been going every year if they can get time off to go. And my brother and we ran into a guy that was trying to start the Pipes and Drums of the Metropolitan Police in Washington, D.C. So the first year we marched with them to kind of get them off the ground, and now they have enough members that they can march on their own.
Yeah, we were down there one year, and I didn't let you know. I said, "Hey, where are you?" My daughter and son-in-law lived in Alexandria, and they just recently moved here, so we had a place to stay and everything. But it's really, we didn't see that evening, but just the gathering and the honoring, and it's just the way. Just
Oh no,
impressive.
they do the town
Right.
proud. You know, it's
It gets bigger every year.
Yeah.
Now it was always held. The candlelight vigil was always held at the actual memorial, and now it's so big that it completely overruns not only the memorial but the whole area
yeah,
there.
yeah.
And what was it that Eric Holder promised a couple of years ago to the police?
Oh yeah, the president wasn't able to make the memorial. The one year he was. I will have to say he was busy. He was signing autographs for the World Series champions, which I guess is more important than placing about 150 names of police officers killed in the line of duty. And he was only right down the street, at his house, the people's house, the White House. But he decided not to come. But he sent Eric Holder, and he gave a very stirring speech. He said, if anyone kills a police officer in the line of duty, we'll prosecute him. Well, thank you very much for that, Mr. Attorney General. Wow, boy, that certainly is great news.
Them's powerful words, huh?
Yeah, right.
I'd be shaking
You know
my
that,
head.
yeah. It just, you know where I come from with that, Tom. It's every time I think about it, I think about the guy living in Franklin Park that only spent 13 years in the joint. That really disturbs me a lot.
Bill Kugelman, next to me, just speaking, he lost a son he was state police.
State trooper.
Yeah, state
Yeah.
trooper.
Yeah.
Guy ran him down, and he said in court, I ought to be a pig or something.
Yep.
Says that, and he gets 13 years he's
Yep.
walking around. So
Yeah. So
That sounded
it's-
like intent to
the
me.
Justice Department just isn't.
justice.
Yeah.
The
There
only
is no
justice-
justice.
The only justice in Illinois is over southwest suburb. But let's not laugh. That's not anything to laugh about.
You gotta go
Anyway.
to Texas, that's all.
Anyway, let's get down to our subjects today. We have
It's about time.
Dave Spencer from the American Indian Center. How you do, Dave?
I'm doing well, thank you.
And we want to talk about Chicago and history and American Indian here, Native Americans. What term do you prefer?
I get that question a lot.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
So, as the when we began the show, I just wanted to preface everything by saying these are my opinions.
That's right.
But personally, because the terms are rooted in English language, I think interchangeable use is fine. I'll respond to Indian, American Indian, Native American, other synonyms like First Nations or even like Indigenous.
Yeah.
I don't really get on board with the PC element of it. simply where I work, we call our organization American Indian Center.
Which means your organization goes back a number of years too, right?
Oh yeah, we just on September 7th we celebrated our 60th anniversary.
Well, this nationwide, correct?
Well,
here?
in Chicago.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're known as the oldest intertribal American Indian Center in the nation. I think the oldest actual Indian center is in Phoenix, but they served like mostly Navajos over there. But we are the oldest intertribal urban Indian center in the nation. But getting back to the question, yeah, it really is kind of case by case. I hate to make blanket statements on behalf of the people. Like my sisters, for example, they probably prefer Native American. I just kind of go in depth and look at the terms as English-based, and interchangeable use is fine.
Your indigenous was a good term. The trouble with Native American is we were all born here, right?
Yeah.
We're all Americans.
That's
We're all Native Americans.
That's the reason why you're.
We know what they
Nicholas
mean.
Term, yeah.
What does
Right.
indigenous mean? What? Excuse
Lived
my.
here forever, but basically, the Indians, as we know, well, the information we got so far is about 16,000 years ago. The first people migrated from China,
From
over the Bering Strait.
Yeah.
more or less.
Or from
Now, this
Siberia.
is before the Great Ice Age. Now, during the Great Ice Age, a lot of them were, of course, forced down south because it gets cold up there.
Yeah.
And then after the Ice Age subsided a little bit, you have the newer migrations, which primarily are Alaskans and Canada. So you got the Aleuts and all these. I don't know why anybody wants to live in the Aleutian Islands, but that's beside the point. But
Why isn't we don't live in Chicago?
yeah, well,
That's a better question.
then you got the Chinglets, you got the Haida, and then there's another tribe in Alaska. I don't remember the name, but Canada likes to use the word First Nation, which, because of the fact that they migrated south during the Ice Age, that wouldn't be the First Nation; it'd be maybe the Second Nation.
Whatever.
Yeah, so this gets to be a very difficult. First Peoples might be closer.
Well, you speak of nation. I mean, how many different tribes, languages? I mean, there are probably thousands, huh?
Well, in the United States, the federal government recognizes 565 tribes. It's a process. That's the other thing is anyone can claim Native American. Anyone born, like you were saying, in the United States are Native American. But ethnically, in order for us to be Native Americans, we have to go through an application process with the federal government through our recognized tribes. But I appreciate the use of Aleut instead of Eskimo. That's good.
Yeah, Eskimos is a derogatory term by the
Wasn't
Southern Indians called the meat eaters.
Yeah.
the
Raw.
alley-oop? Wasn't it the caveman in the comic strips
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aleut.
in the song?
Yeah, they.
Well,
But
I mean, we're talking about Chicago, the American Indian Center. That's at 1630
West Wilson.
West Wilson Avenue. Yeah, is that area mostly inhabited by?
That's a good question. When relocation happened, relocation is a program that was administered by the Bureau of Indian Affairs, which is a program of the Department of the Interior. They had a program called relocation, which took families from reservation, tribal-based lands and brought them to urban centers. It wasn't forced; it was just opportunities. But the way they promoted it was in the end, a better way of life, better education, better housing, better health care. But when they dropped Native folks in urban centers, that was pretty much it. They had an office in Bureau of Indian Affairs had an office in each city, and families came there. They did basically find them jobs, but they were menial jobs. Basically, in the end, it wasn't much different from where they came from. So the reason the Indian Center started was to have a space for folks to gather, to socialize, to culturally practice. In Chicago, families were placed in, like my family in Wicker Park, people were placed in Humboldt Park, Pilsen, Rogers Park. But a high concentration of Native folks were dropped in the uptown area. So Indian Center started on South Street. Then they were at, I believe, an armory on North Sheridan Road. And then since 1967, that we were at our current building at 1630 West Wilson, which was formerly a Masonic temple.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was a high concentration of Native families in Uptown. Edgewater.
Were they at the Armory on Broadway?
Oh, yeah, it was
Sure,
Broadway.
On Broadway,
It was
because
Broadway.
I lived right there
Mhm.
at Thorndale and Broadway.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
were there. I don't know how long, but we were. That was one of our sites.
Okay,
And,
okay.
But now, because of gentrification, everyone kind of moved a little bit west. I currently live in Aurora, but yeah, I miss the city. Families have it's a strewn population across the metropolitan Chicago.
Yeah, I suppose.
So we are currently trying to figure out where we want to be located, centrally, because it no longer is a central location.
Is that the feeling among the members? Is that they want to all be in the neighborhood?
It would be nice. The current building, we don't have parking availability, and then they cut the bus service. It used to be that people could be dropped off basically 50 feet from the building, but now they cut off that part of Wilson Avenue bus service.
yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Oh.
Mhm. So it is becoming a little bit difficult, especially when we have public events. There's basically nowhere to park. There's permit parking. The only public space is on Wilson, and but yeah, we're trying to find a space that's more accessible, and then of course that serves the disabled as well.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I would have liked to have gone out to this place and for the powwow out in Bussy Wood.
Yeah, we
I didn't know about it until I started to Google things up.
Is that an annual event or?
It is. We
Is
just
it?
had our 60th annual powwow over this past weekend. The reason we moved it from city to Elk Grove Village is because of expense. We're a nonprofit, and we're feeling the pain of the economy. But the Illinois, the Cook County Forest Preserve, they really stepped up, and we have a great partnership with them, and they provided in-kind space and services for us to
that's
have the
good.
powwow.
Yeah, yeah.
We were at UIC Pavilion for a number of years, Navy Pier, and those places are just too expensive.
Yeah, yeah.
We had last 2 years, matter of fact, we had people in from the Cook County, Will County, and DuPage County Forest Preserves, and Lake, Cook, and DuPage, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
here
And
on the program.
overall, these are great people. As you said, they just love their job and they love serving and they like what they're doing. They sound like they would be really good partners for something like that. So,
Yeah, it's good to be outdoors too.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
I was there last year, and I tell you, it's really a great event. It's really something. I mean, it's inspiring. It really is.
Yeah, the great thing about the powwow is it shows the general public that we're still living culture, living and practicing. So
Let me ask one other question. There's an Indian museum. Where's that at, and what?
you might be talking about the Mitchell Indian Museum in Evanston.
It may be that one. I'm not sure.
Yeah, we're partners with them as well. They've Betty Mitchell and her family. They had big admirers of Native culture, and they started their collection. I don't know how long ago, but I think it's right around a 6,000 piece collection. Mitchell Museum started as a partner with Kendall College, and then they became their own separate entity sometime in the late 90s, and now they reside at Central and Central in Evanston, doing really good things, real great exhibits, especially the ones that talk about contemporary issues, especially with identity, because there's a lot of folks in Chicago who are born and raised that, like me, actually, I grew up not knowing a lot about my culture because my parents were busy trying to make ends meet. They didn't have time. We didn't come home from work. You just want to relax. I understand that now. But didn't have a lot of time with my parents, who are both fluent in their languages. But
Where were they from?
my parents, my mom is Mississippi Choctaw. The reservation in Mississippi is East Central. It's in a town called Philadelphia. My dad's Navajo from New Mexico, a small town called Vanderwagen, which is just south of Gallup, New Mexico.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah.
But yeah, there's an issue in our communities about identity. There's a lot that goes along with it. I kind of referred to the relocation program, and when people were brought to urban centers. The Indian Center is doing all they can to offer cultural programs, but there's still a lot of folks that we aren't reaching, basically because of the high cost of rent. People are moving away, either back home or different parts of the city.
You know and when I was growing up, and got on the job and was a young adult, and that the only word was on Wilson Avenue and around is don't go near that place, for Christ's sake. All those drunken Indians over there, and don't give them any whiskey, and the word was don't give whiskey to the Indians, and this type of stuff. But in my last years of high school and first years of college, I worked at a dude ranch in Montana, and we had the Blackfoot, and they were what nice people. What they couldn't do enough for you, and boy, talk about a change of attitude. You have to do it like you say, Tom. You have to be out there, and it's just like everybody else. I don't want to go bleeping on the...
It's amazing. I mean, like I said, when I was there last year, I brought my kids and 3 of my grandkids, and they were mesmerized. I mean, really.
Yeah.
And then for me, of course, I made a feeble attempt at trying to explain who these people were, what their culture was. But again, and it's the old story. There's an old Irish expression: there are no strangers in the world. There are only friends we've never met. And that's a good example.
The only thing that we ever grew up with was Tonto, and Gene Autry and the rest of them killing the Indians. And I traveled out.
If there's a group anywhere in the world that has been less stereotyped than the American Indian, I'd like to know.
Yeah,
I'd like to know who they are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The Irish.
Right.
The Irish.
Yeah, St. Patrick's Day.
Let me ask one other question. When you identify tribal, are you more prone to identify with your father's tribe or your mother's tribe?
That's a great question. It would be my mom's tribe because where we lived in Wicker Park, I don't know how this came to be, the evolution of it, but my grandparents on my mom's side lived above us, and then my aunt, who was on my mom's side, lived above them. So there was a lot of language spoken on a daily basis, and because Mississippi is closer, it was easier for us to travel.
In the family, does the family speak the tribal lingo?
Well, because I'm a big fan of baseball, we lived right across the street from Pulaski Park, which is on Noble Street off of Division.
Don't tell me you speak Polish.
Zimny
That's all you need to know.
That's like the Cerveza Fria.
Yeah, exactly. I was just being born and raised in the city. I like to be outdoors. I like the park, and I was always in the park, and we always played pickup baseball. So it's not that my mother gave us an option, but she tried to teach us language. But I would rather be out there playing baseball, and that's what I did, and I regret it. Right now, I'm on a kind of a lifelong quest to learn my languages.
Learn the language, yeah.
So
That's one of the problems that United States government now recognizes, and they are trying to catalog various world languages, not only Indian languages, but other languages too, because a lot of them have disappeared. A lot of the languages either in Poland and in Germany were regional, and they're more or less disappearing.
Well, it's like Gaelic.
Yeah.
Gaelic in Ireland, there was a big movement on. I guess in the West counties they speak a lot more of it.
Oh my!
Yeah,
Right?
That place that I eat at.
They do. They're
my
trying
God,
to.
they speak Gaelic in there. And,
They're trying to revive it.
The Scots too do this different language.
Was Queen Elizabeth I made the remark, we can cut out their Irish tongues and give them English hearts, and they pretty much did stamp the language out. So.
What religious affiliation would most of the people be into?
It's interesting. There's a lot of
Orthodox Jews?
I don't know any converts, but there's a lot of different types of Christian people, native Christian people. Let me start by saying there is an organization that calls themselves the Native American Church. What they do is they fuse Christian beliefs with native traditional. The biggest membership of Native American churches are Navajo people. This is the group or the ceremony practice. That's the one that uses the peyote.
Yeah.
Where can I sign up?
From a medical peyote, right?
Oh yeah.
Just checking.
But there's a Native American church in Chicago. There was a group, a family that came from Utah that started. I don't know if they started, but they were a long time. The pastor and his family facilitated the American Indian Chapel. They rented space at the Y on Lincoln and School Street for a while.
Yeah.
And then they moved to their own space on a small church, which still exists as a church, but it's on Belmont and Damon. But we were there for a while, and American Indian Chapel demised, I believe, in the mid-'90s. And it was a Christian Reformed church, which today I don't even know what that means. I went there for a good 12-year span, but it's interesting because nothing really entered me as far as developing a belief system. But I would say that I am a practitioner of traditional. I participate in ceremonies which do happen in the city. All you need is to create a circle. Folks who are participating create a circle, and that's all you need. It doesn't have to be outdoors. Could be indoors. Could be in an apartment, anywhere, as long as that circle is created by the people. But on the reservation, like if we talk about Choctaws, Mississippi Choctaws, the history books talk about them as being one of the 5 civilized tribes, which is kind of derogatory, or it is derogatory. Because what that means is that Native folks weren't civilized until
Yeah, what point of view you're taking.
Yeah.
It was all civilizations, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
But in that process, the Western movement, a lot of traditional practices were just being taken away, or conversion happened. So on the reservation in Mississippi, a lot of Choctaw people are Catholics and Baptists,
Okay.
mostly Baptists.
Now hold that thought. Got to go to a break.
Okay.
We're going to take another short break, and once again, we'll be back shortly.
End it over, would you, Tom? Because I had...
How are the tires on your vehicle? Do you need motor oil? Or transmission fluid? Or power steering fluid? Or how about antifreeze? What about the wiper blades? Are they in good, sharp condition? Is the washer fluid in your tank full? How good is your battery? Do you need to replace light bulbs? Well, the place to pick up all these items is at Berkeley Auto Supply at 5237 St. Charles Road in Berkeley, Illinois. Stop in and see Tom, and he will get you any part or supply you might need for your vehicle. Tom at Berkeley Auto Supply has everything you need for your vehicle. He has tools, parts, supplies you might need from front bumper to rear bumper, from the top of the roof to the bottom of the chassis. You can call Tom at Berkeley Auto Supply at 708-544-8350. And they are located at 5237 St. Charles Road in Berkeley. Tom's hours are Monday to Friday from 8 o'clock in the morning until 8 o'clock in the afternoon, in the evening. Saturdays from 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. And he's even open on Sundays from 10 a.m. until 3 o'clock p.m. That's Berkeley Auto Supply, 5237 St. Charles Road, and he is just east of Wolf Road and west of Manheim Road, about 2 miles on the south side of the street. You can call 708-544-8350 for parts, tools, and supplies. That's Berkeley Auto Supply, 5237 St. Charles Road in Berkeley, Illinois. And again, their phone number is area code 708-544-8350.
Okay, folks, welcome back to our show and discussion. And now turning it back over to our moderator, Jack Red Ryan.
Thank you. Please. No. Hold the applause till later, folks. By the way, if you're looking for tickets to the event, you better get your requests in very soon to the John DeVita Center. And there was a longer wait than there was for Bozo's Circus, so just remember that. Okay, we're getting back. We're talking about with Dave Spencer for the American Indian Center, 1630 West Wilson Avenue. And what were we going to? What were we talking about? The different religions of the different denomination of Christianity. Basically, people have embraced now. Correct?
Right, with the Choctaws, the Baptist and Catholic churches that reside on reservation land. It's like that across the country. Missionary folks still work on reservation land. So, they're doing their thing. In Chicago, same thing. Basically, my sister's, she's Lutheran, the other's Catholic, and but I never entered that kind of
Are you a
realm.
Lutheran?
Supposed to be.
You're supposed to be a lax Lutheran. I heard lax Catholics before.
But on the other end, there's still ceremonies. People still are practitioners of traditional ways, and because we're in the culture area of the Woodlands, there's a lot of that kind of practice here in Chicago. Sweat lodges, I'm sure people heard of sweat lodges. That still occurs. Pipe ceremonies occur with people from the Dakotas area. So, there's a lot of that happening.
When
in
you
Chicago.
hear of the sweat lodge, to me that reminds me very much of the original use of the sauna up in northern Finland and all. It was had a religious connotation to it, not just a health connotation.
I see a lot of that advertised up in the Baraboo area.
Oh, advertised.
Yeah. They will advertise that they're having a sweat.
It's more fun in the wintertime. You get all the sweat.
Whatever it
right
is,
right into the snow.
They never told me that there was a nude beach up there either.
Is it in the winter?
I was, could be. First one I ever did right on the Wisconsin River.
What's sort of a sad and funny at the same time thing was about the Chinglets up in Alaska. They're the ones that mostly with the totem poles. And the Russian Orthodox came over, and they thought they were religious items, and they stopped them from making totem poles.
They're not?
They're not, no.
What?
They're essentially family histories and stuff like this here.
Oh.
And they forgot how to make totem poles, so when the Russians left and the people from the United States, or lower states, I want to call it, wasn't all states at the time, but came up there and had to teach them how to do it over again. So it's sort of funny but sad at the same time because they lost the in-between time with the Orthodox. And I'm not sure what the religions up there are, but they're nice people up there. You don't even know. There seems to be no segregation up there at all because there's about half and half. And I talked to one guy. He was a carver. He was quite good at it, and he says, "I can live off the land. I learned how to, do all the stuff off the land because they got a
Hunting,
lot
fishing.
of space there, And he said, "Why?" he said, "I can, live comfortably in." I forgot what the town was, but he said I could live comfortably in the town there, and so he makes his money and he's happy. And,
Well, there's a restaurant up in Baraboo called the Lincoln, and they every so often they have a display of carving figures out of stumps of wood, and those are all Indians that do that. And boy, are they good with that chainsaw!
Oh, yeah.
Man, make beautiful, beautiful things. And that's what I often think about is the totem poles. These guys probably made a lot of them, and they learned their trade down there. But they are beautiful.
Yeah, they've got a big collection at the Field Museum of
Yes.
American Indian clothing and wood
Yeah.
carvings and.
oh, it's fun.
It's beautiful, beautiful work. And
it's funny.
You see these guys that get out there, and I don't know how long it takes them. They got a big stump of wood. You know, I don't know if they use oak or whatever it is. And 10 minutes later, man, they got a bear or an eagle or some damn thing carved up there, and it's marvelous. You know what they do, all with a chainsaw. I got trouble just starting mine.
Well, I have to say one thing, and I'm not just saying this because of our special guest we have with us here today. I was born on Columbus Day, and my entire life, and I've been saying this since I was old enough to make my point with anyone, or anyone would listen to me, we always heard, who was Christopher Columbus? Well, he was the one that discovered America. And I've been saying this my entire life, and nobody seems to want to enter into the conversation with me. How do you discover something that is already inhabited? Can someone please explain that? It's like we were taught that without question our entire lives. Now I'm sure you've probably
It's too bad the Indians didn't have
better weapons? Or?
no, that too.
How about a PR person? If they had a PR person, that
A
would-
PR person and the what do you call it? Texting and all of that. They all they had was smoke signals, and it was always windy. So,
But they had the drums too. They used to be able.
But I mean,
Drum beat.
I mean, if there was a good, you're talking about PR, that the Native Americans should say, every time somebody brings that up, hey, you
know
didn't
what-
discover us.
you know
we
what, Tom?
were already here.
they were so intelligent that they just wanted to be left alone.
Yeah.
And
then
God bless them for that.
And then the real fact of the matter is he never set foot on the mainland, and there were Irish monks that were
St. Brendan.
North America
Vikings too.
long before.
Yeah.
I mean, what's your feeling? I mean, does that bother you, or you just take it in stride, or?
Yeah, it's funny because
History.
when I was going to elementary school, public school system, like I was telling you earlier, I didn't have a cultural upbringing, so a lot of what I learned about Native history, Native culture was from public school textbooks. So I jumped on board with Columbus Day growing up, and I didn't see the politics in it. Of course, now that I'm much older, it is a problem because, first of all, I guess the person who should be credited for the so-called discovery is the Amerigo Vespucci.
Vespucci.
Actually, be like Erickson. He was here first.
Yeah, sure. And Bears beat the Vikings yesterday. That's good.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
good.
first were the people in the Stone Age who went across the land bridge.
Yeah, that's what we were
Siberia.
talking about originally.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's interesting because that Bering Strait, we like to tell educators, that's still a theory,
It is.
because Native folks, and it comes with understanding. It's real complex to talk about our diverse, I guess the Bible calls it Genesis. We call it, creation stories, which places us here on the land across the Western Hemisphere. So we're still kind of disputing, or just trying to advocate the Bering Strait as a theory. But getting back to the question of Columbus, it's a problem because it's just a basic misrepresentation. We talk about media and its portrayal of Native Americans. It's really a lot of misrepresentation. So what we'd like to do at the Indian Center is, what we're doing currently is creating curriculum which is based on research, interviews, research that it's native based. I mean, these are years and years of interviewing native folks, elders, capturing those stories, those histories, those oral histories. And so today we're continuing that process of research and interviewing, trying to document. And then we're creating a curriculum that we're trying to get into not just the Illinois State Board curriculums, but we want to be a model. There are existing models out there for a curriculum of Native history, methodology, and ideologies. So we're still trying to fight the good fight there, and it's tied into media portrayal too, because that's a problem. And the biggest problem is that people think when you say Native Americans, you're talking about one group of people, but Native America is real diverse.
It's like saying a European.
Yeah, for sure.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's what I was saying before.
Yeah, I heard on the radio earlier last week. Somebody was trying to describe Asian, and then when people talked about India, they're like, "That's not Asian. That's not Asia." It is. So,
Well, there's another term, Asian. There are probably as many Caucasians in Asia as there are almost as many.
Yeah, there's another problem too with the Bering Straits. The fact is that the reason why they say it came across the Bering Straits, they have no record of canoes or boats or any kind of floating devices. Now, the problem with that is that there's I forgot the name of the tribe, but they have so-called white Indians that came over from Europe.
Yeah.
Cherokee, that's what I'm thinking. And they said they claim they're Jews, and they came across the Atlantic Ocean. Now, this is all, of course, a lot of stuff is lost in history too, but
A lot of it is lost in just people telling stories too.
well, that's the problem with. And the other catch on this is the fact is that supposedly that the Indians migrated from Alaska all the way down to Peru in 1,000 years. Now, there was no horses and there was no wheels, so that means you had to carry it.
You didn't think that there was Indians down in Peru?
Now, they got
What do
down
you
there.
call those Incas?
They supposedly came from the north. Now, why would they want to go through the Isthmus of America, all
Well,
the
there's no Panama
jungles
Canal,
and
so-
everything else, and get down there if they didn't have boats or something else to get down there with?
You know what we had? I was deputy director of the Illinois Bureau of Racetrack Police, and I spent 40 years at the racetracks, and we always had trouble with some certain people out there, gypsies. And the first thing when you grab one is, "I'm an Indian. I'm an Indian." You can't touch me in that. And yeah, sure. Get over it.
Well, the theory is they actually did come from India originally. So I remember the little guy.
The other India.
Yeah, India. I was a little guy. I heard about an Indian elephant. In my mind, I pictured a Native American Indian crossing the Great Plains on an Indian elephant, with a beautiful headdress or whatever. My mother explained to me the difference. So I had good parents, thank God.
Gypsies is not politically correct anymore. They're
No.
bums.
Then another one makes me think of a few things you were saying, Dave. I remember Jack Parr on the Tonight Show years ago, probably before your guys' time, I'm sure. But he had the Tonight Show for 5-6 years or whatever it was after Steve Allen, and he was interviewed. He had Jay Silverheels as a guest on there, and in the course of the interview, he came out that I'm sure he used the line before, but he said he'd married an Italian girl, and Parr says, "Well, how'd you wind up marrying an Italian girl?" And he said, "Well, I had to get even with Columbus somehow, So,
You know
of course, the
what?
line I'm sure used
They
it.
just made that movie.
Lone Ranger.
And Johnny Depp
Yeah.
played Tonto,
Yeah.
and I thought, what a slap in the face. Johnny Depp playing, and Jay Silverheels was a great guy. He was
yeah, he was.
a good actor, and that. You mean to tell me they couldn't find a good actor of Indian
sure.
descent?
They used
got
Jewish
Johnny
guys
Depp.
back in the day in the old westerns. They're Jewish or Italian.
Italians.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
How many years did we see Iron Eyes Cody in the movies? And he looked just about like the guy in the old Nickel. That's how much he looked like.
Yeah.
Gee, it turned out his parents were Sicilian immigrants.
yeah.
Well, the other thing was they always had Tonto talking with that broken
Yeah.
English, and he was quite
Oh, sure.
quite versatile.
Yeah, he was well schooled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
His real name was Leonard Smith or something. He went back to a Native American name.
But
Was
the
Leonard
other
Smith?
thing was
Leonard
that
Goldsmith?
you look at the cowboys. They always show cowboys being white. They were basically Indian, blacks, and rebels that are escapees from the army.
Mhm.
So there were a lot of deserters out there. So these were basically the three types of people.
Mhm.
And a lot of them were Mexicans. You know,
Yeah.
Mexicans are Indians too, but you know,
Or part, mestizo people? Or like part Caucasian, part Indian?
yeah, well, whatever. But they, a lot of them. I don't know how come they call it Hispanic, but because Hispanics came from Spain.
Yeah, well, if you're Spanish, you're not Hispanic, though. Did you know that?
I know
if
you're
you're
white.
Spanish, you're not Hispanic. How can you classify a race of people by a language? You know what I'm saying? Just language alone.
There's a name that they use, and I can't think of
Yeah.
what it is.
Well, the other thing was funny. I talked to
Cannellonian, maybe? Cannellonian or something like that?
Yeah.
one guy I talked to. He was born in Spain. His parents migrated to South America.
Mm-hmm.
He migrated to the States. Now, because he lived in South America, they consider him Hispanic. Even though he was born in Spain, he would be considered white.
Oh,
You know, that
White's an absurd
goes
term
on
anyway.
today.
Yeah, I know. That's what,
It goes on today right here in the city of Chicago
Yeah.
because it doesn't make any difference what you are, how you were raised. If you have a surname that is Spanish or whatever it is, that's where they consider you.
Yeah.
You know, we've had bosses with Spanish surnames, and bingo, up on the list they go.
And they're,
and
they're
police-
Polish.
And they're
And
no
the
more.
Yeah.
On the
They
police,
were Polish,
police
yeah.
department, Matt Rodriguez.
Matt was.
He didn't
yes.
speak any.
They spoke Polish.
His mother, right.
I've had Spanish guys, Mexican or whatever, and I thought, oh man, am I glad I got this kid now. Come here, kid. Talk to these people here. Oh, I can't speak Spanish.
Yeah.
Get out of there, you know.
A lot of them can't. They broke. A lot of them, they do speak Spanish. They what to call
So we have
pidgin
the same
Spanish.
thing
Yeah.
today, Al. You know, nothing has changed. Nothing has changed at all.
Yeah.
See, I'm probably the last guy I think who speaks any, but I had 2 years at St. Rita following 2 years of Latin, so Spanish was very easy. Then I had a semester at the city college, and then I had the best of all at the police department, at the academy. They had a federal program. You go there for 6 weeks, 8 hours a day. You're beginning to use it. You one sheet at a time. You learn all the verb endings and everything. By the time you get out of there, you're pretty good. So I beat them out of 6 weeks there. And they said, "Why do you want to take that where you're working?" I was working in the 2nd District, the 51st in Wentworth. Well, guess what? The first day back, we had a disturbance with a family from the Dominican Republic. But nonetheless, if some of your company's going to send you to school like that, it's ridiculous not to take advantage of it.
We had all of that with
John,
Roscoe,
John,
and
tell-
none of them spoke
Hey,
spoke any
hey,
kind
Bill,
of Spanish.
I know the history behind that. The only reason that John went to that 6-week class in Spanish
The
is
teacher.
he could order food in a Mexican restaurant.
Frijoles.
Es verdad, señor. Tengo hambre.
No, we've had that. We had a couple of deaths of Mexicans and that, and oh my God, now everybody's got to learn Spanish, and they had school going on, and older Ray Orozco, who ended up to be the commissioner, he was in there teaching it, and I know I walked in and I took one look and I says, "Is this going to be Spanish with a Polish accent to it?" And that, I just walked out.
Well, that's the trouble too. I a couple of Polish families I talked to, and he says, "Well, they're Polish. They want to teach the classes in Polish, and the parents wanted them to teach it in English because they wanted the kids to learn the American language. So they had to fight with the school officials to get the kids into a English-speaking group."
Well, the absurdity of that is, yeah, okay, fine, we should all remember where we came from and learn some other languages, but American English is, and I think Cantonese and American English are the most widely spoken in the world. And if you're in an airplane, if you're in, you're in Aer Lingus flying into Moscow, the directions from the tower to the cockpit are back in American-style English.
English.
Anywhere in the world.
They
No,
have
there's
they
two-
have to speak English
Yeah.
to fly anymore.
Yeah, there's two languages that are prevalent. One's in computers and the other one's in flying.
Mhm.
Because everything was developed in the States here. And consequently, because they wanted a commonality of languages, those two were generally used. Even though you have different languages on the keyboard,
Mhm.
the fact is that most of them had to be conversant in American language.
You know, that Jack, like you say, I spent my years at St. George, and I Spanish,
These
and a couple of years of Latin, and then Spanish later. And where the hell did they send me? France and Germany.
Yeah.
And so what the hell good did
Well,
it do?
well,
you know?
France is good.
In World War II, the Japanese took those two Aleutian Islands, Attu and Kiska, and the what are those, the brigade, the army that was sent to take them back were trained in desert warfare. So
Yeah.
there you
Had
go.
no winter clothes.
Anyway, getting back to the American Indian Center, since time is rolling right along. What else do you offer? Do you offer any kind of? And you make me think of it. It's what you used to call it, a settlement house, to help like the people adjust. Partly, is that part of the mission?
Yeah, we still honor our mission when we started in 1953, which is basically, well, first of all, to have relations with, metropolitan Chicago, and to provide for the general welfare of Native folks coming into Chicago. So we have a food pantry, and the thing about the American Indian Center, although it says American Indian Center on the building, we serve everybody. We're very inclusive. So anyone living in the zip code of 60640, we serve with our food pantry. We do have a senior lunch that happens on Wednesdays, and again, we serve everyone there, providing a hot meal. We also have wellness activities. During senior lunch, there's a volunteer acupuncturist that comes and does this thing there. We have a workforce.
pretty?
It's a male.
Oh,
Is he handsome?
We also have a workforce development office that's housed in our building, helping folks with job opportunities. We have an education department that offers tutoring, academic tutoring, mentoring, again, for everyone that needs assistance. We have a science research department. I spoke to curriculum development. That's what they're doing. And then we have art workshops. You talk about, how do we provide, how do we sustain our culture? How do we keep what's left? We do that through art. It's interesting. I understand that there's no word for art in native languages, as well as, people say, how do you say goodbye? And people say that there's no word for that either. When you say, you're native, or, you're from a tribe like Navajos, we call ourselves Dene, or Choctaws say Chata. So when you say those things, you're also saying simultaneously you're a spiritual person and you're an artist.
okay.
But it's interesting that the discussion of language, we are losing our languages, unfortunately. I do believe, and when I say this, I pose it as a challenge to my people, that we are going to lose our languages, and once we lose our languages, our culture is gone. It's done. I can give you an idea, a glimpse into what I'm talking about as far as cultural retention or language retention. I lived for a summer on Choctaw Res in 1997, and we had a 91% language retention rate. We were the highest in the country.
When was this?
Summer of 97.
No, where?
Oh, Mississippi.
Oh, Mississippi. The state or the river?
The state. When I went back to live on the Choctaw Reservation in 2005, the language retention rate was at 78%.
So it fell.
Yeah, it
by
fell
13%,
dramatically.
huh?
Yep. So that's the kind of rate we're on. So I do believe our languages will be gone, and it's up to, like I said, when I say that, I pose it as a challenge, not to just other people but myself, because I have a son, and he's already done so many things, I guess, tribally. I did a lot of things intertribal practice, so there's a major difference. But because we lived on a reservation, he got exposure to Choctaw culture, and so he sang songs and he danced culturally over there. So he's done a lot more than I've done.
Is there any these days? It's with our modern video and recording and whatever. Are there any languages programs that are done that way, or?
Yeah, actually, you could find, if you Google, like, say, Navajo language, they'll take you to different websites, and the reason I know about Navajo language because I myself and an elder named Joe Yazzie, he lives in Carpentersville, formerly from New Mexico as well. We won Illinois Arts Council grant last year called the Master Apprentice, and what we proposed was for him because he's a ceremony practitioner back in the day, but he knows what they call the Enemy Way ceremony, which is a healing ceremony, and part of that ceremony is social dancing. So he knew those songs, and those songs are language based, and I asked him if he could teach me. So we wrote a proposal to an arts council, and they funded us. So currently, I couldn't sing it to you today because I have to look at my notes, but first of all, Navajo language is one of the most difficult languages to learn, especially as an adult. So I struggle with that. Even like if I say yat-e, I'm probably saying it wrong. That means, that's a greeting, basically a hello. When I say yat-e, other Navajos look at me and they know that I don't know the language just because of the way I'm saying it. But he taught me some songs, and so I have some of that under my belt. And that's how you talk about how media captures that. There are language CDs available from different tribes. Tribes have their own distribution. So if you want information like there's a lot of Cherokees. If you contact those reservations either in Oklahoma or North Carolina, they probably have their language CDs available. But
wasn't it the Navajos that did the
code talking?
The Army.
That's right.
It's interesting. The reason the Navajos get a lot of attention for code talking is because during World War II, they had the highest number of
People in the service?
Navajo people in that Department of Communication.
Okay.
But there were a lot of tribes that invested in code talking. Choctaws were one of them. But I don't know how many, at least 40 different tribes were invested in code talking.
They were, and I was stationed at Fort Monmouth.
Oh, okay.
And that was the Signal Corps, and plus other things. But there were a ton of Indians in that group.
They weren't smoke signals, were they?
No, not unless
I gotta say
they're
that
burning.
We're time for another break, Mr. McKenna.
All right, stay tuned. We will be back shortly.
Well, friends, guess what? Summer is almost over with. And now is the time to think about the roof, siding, and gutters on your home or place of business. We still could get some heavy rainstorms in the next few months, so be sure the roof, siding, and gutters are in good shape. You don't want mold or mildew in your attic or crawl space, and you don't want drip on the ceilings in your rooms or have your walls damaged by a leaky gutter or bad siding. So don't have double expense. Sooner or later, you're going to have to get them repaired. So call Best Brothers Roofing, Siding, and Gutters at area code 630-616-1359. And Mike Best will drive over in his shiny red truck with ladders on top and Best Brothers Roofing signs on the door. Mike will look over your roof, siding, and gutters and give you an estimate and go from there. So don't have double expense. Call Best Brothers Roofing for a free estimate. That's at 630-616-1359. That's Best Brothers Roofing, Siding, and Gutters at 630-616-1359. Call today for a free estimate. Best Brothers Roofing, Siding, and Gutters at area code 630-616-1359.
Welcome back, everyone. And now back to our moderator, Jack Red Ryan.
Okay. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back. While we're sitting here, I've been looking around the table here, and I've been trying to, since we don't have any visual medium, I want to tell you what
You mean we're not on TV?
No.
Oh, I can't show them the pictures, huh?
Oh,
No, those of you who are watching on television, cut it out. We're not on television. Not yet, anyway. They said I have the voice for television and the face for radio. Was that it? Something like that. But we're back now. We were talking various aspects of the American Indian Center here in Chicago, and generally about American Indian nations, plural. And before we move on to another topic, we got more to go to. I got to ask you, Dave.
Hmm?
Can you help us get a casino? I mean,
It's funny. I worked at a casino. I oppose casinos because with those big businesses, of course, it brings a bad element. With the Choctaws, I know other tribes need that kind of revenue coming in. But with the Choctaws, if I could speak on Mississippi Choctaws, we didn't need a casino. We had contracts with big corporations to do wire harnesses for automobiles, electronics. We had a contract with American Greetings. So we were actually a model for economic development for Indian nations across the country. So there wasn't a need for casinos, but unfortunately, and again, I just have to preface by saying it's an opinion of mine that greed enters the picture.
Yep.
So casinos, yeah, I mean, there are policies in place where that the profits that are made by casinos, they have to do a certain percentage goes into the infrastructure of the reservation or tribal land. Certain percentages go to neighboring towns to offer economic development for them. I know with the Choctaws, we had the town of Philadelphia, which is about 5 miles from the main reservation. But that town, it's not tribal land, but the Choctaws bought the fire department, a new truck, I believe. And with the casino, getting back to casino, if I could say something, one thing that was great about the Choctaw Casino in Mississippi was that it was probably the first time in my life, and I'm just talking about 2005, when I went there to live and I actually ended up working at the casino. It was the first time I'd actually seen the African American community, the white community, and the Choctaw community come together. Sitting in that employee dining area and seeing all those communities come together and eat together was really, eye-opening, especially in Mississippi, if you know that history. So that's the only thing I could think as a positive. See, the tribe, unfortunately, they're looking at the casino because it is the biggest generating revenue for the tribe. But so they spend a lot of time and they overlook education, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of those kids that are graduating from the tribal high school, the tribe's not doing enough to get them to go to college, and it's because of the casino. Kids are looking forward to working at the casino one day, and that's not good. They need to get out. They need to get out of the reservation environment, go into cities, go out of the country, because we have a good scholarship program in Choctaw, Mississippi. So I think the opportunity is there. They're just not seizing it, and the tribe's not doing enough to advocate it.
Is that the name of the town, Choctaw,
It is.
Mississippi?
It is now. I
Okay.
think as of maybe it's been that way for a decade now.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, that, yeah.
Well, what you say makes me think of the same delusion that a lot of urban kids get into, thinking they can make it in the NBA or the NFL or whatever like that, instead of
Yeah, that's a
knowing
problem.
how a very small percentage will make it up to the level.
If you're 1%, if you're lucky.
Yeah, if that, yeah.
So
In the last segment, you used the term tribal elder. Well, what is the hierarchy of a tribe? Is there like one elder per tribe, or is it a group, or?
it's interesting once you start. With the exception of me, I have white hair a little bit, but once you start getting that white hair now, or once you reach your age, people like in Chicago, we have our elders. The one that I remember, there's a man named Vince Catches. He lived in right over here near Norwich, off of Forest Preserve Drive. Vince Catches, Lakota, and people. He was an elder. People asked. He would come to the Indian Center in his wheelchair. People would sit with them and ask him questions about, ceremony or language or his wisdom, and he would talk to them, not really answering their questions, but later on he would sit with us at the drum. He'd shake his head and goes, I really hate when people come to me because I don't know anything.
He was considered the godfather.
Yeah, it was, and he just got there because he was an older man and he had the white hair and he spoke his language. And just like me, I mean, people ask, when I attended school, not just public school, but undergrad and graduate school, once people found out I was Native, I was automatically the Native expert. And I have so much to learn. I don't.
As if there's something in your DNA that makes you know all this, right?
Right. I used to have. It's funny because I used to have long hair. I grew my long hair to honor my grandfathers. It was a 4-year commitment. I kept it for 12. But prior to me growing long hair, I was always. People thought I was Latino, mostly Mexican. They thought I was Mexican. Once I grew my long hair, I was never mistaken for anything but Native. Then when I cut my hair, I was back to being Mexican. So it's interesting, the aesthetics of it.
¿Habla español, señor?
Poquito.
Well, you ever hear the story of why the term redskin came around?
No.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, there was a tribe that liked to use red ochre to decorate their body.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, and the pioneers or whoever they was saw them. They call them redskins, and it apparently stuck to everybody, even though they didn't have redskins.
Well, you know what? That's going on today now with all of these sports teams and their names, and they want to do away with redskins and what else?
Well, yeah, redskins.
Chief Illini.
Chief Lanowek.
Yeah, Lanowek.
Yeah.
What does the community think of this? Honestly.
You're putting me on the hot seat now.
Yes, I know.
Maybe different opinions get 50 people, right?
Yeah, so with the University of Illinois, Chief Lanowek was the mascot. So for me, people ask me, did I see that as a slap in the face or derogatory or all those negativities? For me, what I think University of Illinois with that mascot was trying to do was represent the Illini. It was a group of different.
It was alliance, wasn't it?
Right.
Tribes,
right. Mostly woodlands. There were some plains that were represented in the Illini, but mostly woodlands, northern woodlands people. So the mascot dressed up in plains culture regalia. And then formulated this dance, which no tribe took ownership of. So right off the bat, it was a misrepresentation for him to wear that regalia, which was authentic regalia, I understand, made by a Native person. But the dance he did was just, it was really just kind of something he made up. So it was, when you do that, and then when you're trying to they say honor Native folks. It really wasn't, because the university never came, from what I understand, the university never came to any community and asked, "Hey, could we honor you by this representation?" That was never that never happened. So eventually, protests occurred. Communities mobilized themselves and tried to talk to the university. The university actually had these open forums. Meetings. Eventually, the demise of the mascot came. As a Choctaw Navajo person, that mascot did not represent me. So I didn't take any kind of
Average.
Right.
Do you think it was just a lot of people with thin skin?
It's interesting because I think it comes with going back to the identity problem. I think when people look at different kind of iconography that depicts Native Americans, they get upset because they themselves are struggling with identity, because that's what they see. They see, okay, let's take let's take the Blackhawks. The American Indian Center is in a partnership with the Blackhawks. We're trying to work with that organization, trying to talk about the actual figure Black Hawk from the Sac and Fox tribe, and not just talk about that history and that person with the organization, but also to the fans. You know, that Black Hawk was an actual figure, historical figure, human, and the tribe is still alive and well today. So the Hawks gave us an opportunity to link off of their website, which was really great. You know, so they're trying to work with us. It's a great partnership. They actually brought the Stanley Cup to our powwow over the weekend. Yeah, it was pretty cool. But they're doing different things with us. They gave us. We're part of the Blackhawks charity, so we're receiving grant dollars from them.
Excellent.
So we're able to create a space for our kids to play. So we kind of redid our.
Are they into hockey?
Yeah, actually, hockey is really big with native Indian country, especially in Canada.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So there are a lot of Hawks fans that are native folks, and a lot of Indian country actually were for the Hawks, you know, during the Stanley Cup because.
They had to be.
Yeah, I mean, so getting back to the whole icon and you know the Hawks jersey, which I understand is the #1 selling jersey in NHL. That icon isn't. I have to. My feeling on it, I don't see it as derogatory. People call it a caricature. Yeah, maybe, but it's not as bad as Chief Wahoo from Cleveland Indians. That's got to be the worst.
Well, wait a minute now. Cleveland Indians were named the Indians because of a pitcher they had named Wahoo Crawford. You know that?
Yeah, I did.
You did. So he was named after him.
So there's nothing wrong with Chief Wahoo, but the icon that represents Cleveland Indians baseball team is derogatory.
Well,
can't
wait a minute now.
picture it.
What if I know? Well, it's really cartoony looking, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a big.
What about
tight
the
smile.
little stringy little Irishman looks like a monkey that represents Notre Dame?
Notre Dame.
That's close
the fighting Irish.
Now that goes back to Queen Victoria was trying to tell the world that the Irish were subhuman anyway. So
It's interesting because my brother-in-law is Irish, and he asked me, what's the big deal with the Blackhawks? What's the big deal with Chief Lionel? He goes, I don't get it. He goes, why you guys spend so much time, you know, protesting, you know? So I asked him a question. I asked him, so you're Irish. Do you have any ambition to learn your language, which is Gaelic, right? Gaelic,
Yeah.
or one of them.
Gaelic, yeah.
He said no. I go, do you have any ambition to maybe learn Irish dance? He said no. Are you interested in learning anything Irish?
Being a leprechaun.
And he said no. I go, well, the people I know do. They're worried about language, so they want to learn it.
Oh.
They're dancing out there. They're singing. I go, those are the people that are upset, so they're really invested into their culture. So I think there's a difference there. Maybe that's a difference.
It always makes me think of that great Irish song, "The Unicorn," written by Shel Silverstein. So, anyway,
question
How
about
about the
Blackhawk.
Badgers? The Wisconsin Badgers. I haven't seen any Badgers coming up out of the creek. You know,
They
contesting
the
killed them all.
Vikings.
the Vikings. Yeah.
They killed them all. That's Chief Blackhawk. Now, is there a Blackhawk tribe, or that's just because of Chief Blackhawk?
Well, Blackhawk, these names that have, you know, like Blackhawk, I know a lot of people with names like that, Big Bear, Red Cloud.
Right.
They're English translations of actual language-based names. Like for Big Bear in that language, Ponca, they say Machutanga. That's what they call. So when you translate it to English, it sounds like that. You know, Blackhawk.
Okay, yeah, I understand that.
But Blackhawk is from the Sac and Fox tribe in
Okay.
Iowa.
Okay, because I thought that the story I got was that if the chief's name was whatever it was, the tribe took the name of the chief. So is this how it works, or is it the other way around?
No, not necessarily that. No, because I've never heard of someone called Chata or Dine, you know, as far as a
Yeah.
person. Yeah, I don't know where that came from. But I got to say, too, with tribes, I really, people say, what do you like to be called, going back to that Native American Indian North. I'd like to be known as my clans, which is which clans tell you your family line, your bloodlines.
Right.
In my opinion, tribes tell you more your geography.
Right.
And then,
Well,
of course, you got the English terms.
You got the tribes, and you got the sub-tribes, and you got the bands, and then the family.
Yeah, so clans is probably the best.
They better not screw around with that Black Hawk logo, because my daughter has gotten to be an expert on painting that on furniture. And she's got a business going since
Did
they
you ever
won
see,
the,
did you ever see the Black Hawk statue? Chief
Yeah.
Black Hawk, and the, was it
Oh,
on
yeah.
the Illinois River?
In the
That-
west,
That's
yeah.
really
Yeah.
impressive. That is impressive.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's made out of concrete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was Black Hawk Films out of Iowa. What was the town in Iowa? For years, they had all kinds of old, 8mm and 16mm. They sold out to some. I think this.
Well, they called a gun. They had the Black Hawk gun. Remember that?
The helicopter, Black Hawk helicopter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Black Hawk.
a
Yeah.
hunt-
Oh, here we
Where
go.
does-
But yeah, with going back to that, we don't have a problem with maybe some. I shouldn't say again, no blanket statements. As an organization, we don't have a problem with Black Hawk's icon, but we just wanted people to know that Black Hawk is a real person and that Native folks are still here. With University of Illinois, it wasn't about their icon. It was about the mascot. So they retained their icon and got rid of the mascot. With someone like the Washington Redskins, there's a national movement to work with them to change their name. But again,
They did once. They were the Boston Redskins before.
oh, is that right? But yeah, it's one of those things. You spoke of Johnny Depp and Tano and all that. It comes down to the almighty dollar.
Yeah,
Oh,
sure.
Yeah.
I noticed is it the Seminoles don't have any problem with because they're going to cut something from the.
Yeah, the Seminoles, they're in partnership with the
Yeah.
university. Yeah, so.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It all comes down to the almighty.
Here's one I'm
bucket, right?
surprised, but
Yeah.
we're gonna have to switch subject in a moment. But no one has ever protested that song "The Lion Sleeps Tonight." And wasn't it an Indian burial chant? Some tribe, I don't know which one. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Wimwek. The Weavers did it originally in the 40s, I believe. And then that Tokens did it in the 60s. They added the lion sleep. It has nothing to do with lions in the jungle. It was a burial chant, but you look that one up.
I will.
You can take it to the bank.
What did you bring there, Dave? You brought something in with you when you came.
Yeah, I'm a
Pizza.
in Chicago. There aren't a lot of singers. There used to be, but I'm a singer. I guess people would say powwow singer. So thereby, I'm an oral traditionalist. I'm a song keeper. In Chicago, there are things that we do traditionally, culturally speaking, that need songs. For instance, somebody passing away, they're making their journey to the next world, so they need songs to take with them. And at the same time, we're offering their families those songs too, so that they can get through the grieving process, the mourning process. So like that. And then we have powwows. Again, powwows are opportunities for tribes to come together and culturally share. So I'm a singer, and I have learned a lot of songs over the years that I provide to community. Sometimes people call the American Indian Center wanting a presentation, so I offer that too. So yeah, I'm a singer.
Oh, okay.
So that's a hand drum.
Somebody died the other day. And you know what? It was Don Wade.
Yeah.
And after when they ended the program at 9 o'clock or whatever it is, they did a song on there, and I'm sure it was an Indian chant of some type.
That's all right.
And who was it that sang? I wanted to know what that was, and I'll tell you why. I wanted to know what that chant was. I would love to have it done at my burial.
Interesting.
You know, it's and I can't even think of what it was now, of where I could get it, where I could Google it, and
I have to look that up. Huh.
yeah, that's right. It was Don Wade's.
Well, then the show is with Bruce Wolf and Jan Proft now, right?
Yeah.
They got information for you. Or
Yeah,
producer or
yeah.
somebody, right?
Yeah.
They would know. Maybe those two guys
Yeah.
wouldn't. But
I know that guy up there too. Yeah, Dempsey, John Dempsey.
Yeah, Jack Dempsey. I knew him. We were talking about it before.
No, John. This is John.
I think they buried him a while ago.
Yeah, he's been gone for a while. Anyway, he didn't. John Dempsey took a kind of a very critical of him. He he chose to serve in the Brooklyn Navy Yard instead of enlisting, and they showed one picture of him working in the yard. He had a pair of patent leather shoes on. But in World War II, he was an officer in the Coast Guard.
Yeah.
Anyway, listen, thanks for coming down. No, I don't want you to leave you. It's been very informative for one guy.
Yeah, very, very, very
carrying the show like
informative.
that. You know.
Yeah.
Thanks for inviting me.
And it's why we try to get experts in fields where they know they can talk talk very extemporaneously for on subject. Are you did you go to a college, boy?
Yes, I did my undergrad at Columbia College downtown, and then my graduate studies at the School of the Art Institute.
Oh, art.
My
Painting
grandson
artist?
graduated from Columbia.
Okay.
In fact, he's coming in now.
Yeah, my sister
kind of
graduated
an
from
award.
my sister graduated from the Art Institute.
Yeah, Matt went to Art Institute too. Come
That's
out
great.
of it, yeah.
Go out to those places. I'd flunk
Didn't,
out real quick.
Didn't what's his name? Oh, never mind. It was just a poor joke anyway.
Yeah, well, the most of them are.
Thank
I know. I'm trying.
Thank
I'm
you for
trying, though.
sparing us.
Sid Luckman, Columbia, right? Columbia.
I
Sid
don't.
Luckman?
I have no idea.
So was
I have no
let's see, Eddie Collins, and so was Lou Gehrig. Oh, that's Columbia University. I'm sorry, wrong place. My doctor says to me his kid was going to be going to Columbia, studying something and some kind of international economics or whatever. And I said, "Oh, and you mean I thought you meant Columbia University of Missouri down there?"
But you mentioned Kendall College.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Kendall College was just all cooking and
Oh no, it's got more stuff.
and,
Yeah,
and that
there's-
type of thing.
It's
There's
noted
that.
for that.
One
but
of our
it's,
one of
not
our
here.
people on the board of directors of the fire museum is in charge there,
Oh, okay.
and I always kid him about that. I know the difference. I know the difference. Says you want to be a cook, go to Kendall. That's all they teach you there.
Or you don't want to go to the blue, whatever it is. But no,
Well, are you going to sing a song here for us, or what?
I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure, of course.
I'll be
The
short.
hell did you bring it for?
You brought your drum, or is it drum? What do they call it?
Yeah, it's just a hand drum. It's made of buckskin. It might be a little flat.
You know, it's funny. The Irish have a very similar drum. It's called a bowran.
Okay.
I wonder if there's any history involved in.
Yeah,
in that. I'm sure there is.
it's funny. People when I bring this out, they think it's unique to Native culture, but it's universal. It's worldwide.
yeah,
Hand drums.
drums are one of the first instruments around.
The Irish probably make theirs out of what
Englishman skin.
Englishman skin.
Yeah, right.
All right, I'm gonna do this one. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, oh, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, oh, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, oh, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya. All right.
Very good.
Thank you
very
very
good. Very good, Dave.
So if I could just, that song is from the Ponca Nation. It's a veteran song. So we honor veterans as often as we can. 2 words in that song, Shendun Jinga and Nan Jibe. Basically, what they're instructing people to do is rise up and look at those veterans, honor them by standing up. All right.
Okay.
Like I say, I worked on a dude ranch in Montana when I was in high school, and I wrangled dudes, and I had no idea what was going on in that part of the world at that time, and I started out, and every Saturday we would have a square dance, and then the Canadian Mounted Police would come down and then a couple of Indians would come in, and one of them stayed overnight, and then I had to go out and wrangle some horses the next morning, and and I mentioned something about, well, the sheep herders are out there, and this Indian chief or whatever he was, he came over and he said, "Stay away from them. Stay away. Stay away." He says, "If you see something, don't be taking it to them." Well, I found out why later on.
Oh, okay.
The sheep herders were not very moral persons,
Okay.
to say
Now,
the least.
well, that'll be the
But
last
I was
word.
thankful that that Indian guy
The last
gave
word
me
for
that
the
hint.
segment. Before we go to break here, since we don't have television, I've been sitting here and looking who people remind me of. Matt, did anyone ever tell you look like Chris Maloney
I don't know who that is, sir.
from Law and Order? You know,
Um,
Law and Order Special Victim Unit. No, okay, we'll look him up. Well, he's a current guy.
Actually, he's talking about some guy that's in the
And then Dave Victor Mature, and Bill Clark Gable, and
They're both dead.
oh no, not Maloney. Tom used to always tell him, Robert Goulet.
Call it.
And John, I think Ed Brophy. No. And yourself, John Wayne. That's Al Opitz, John Wayne. Myself, it's a toss-up between Spencer Tracy and Charles Durning.
Charles Dunning, you're close enough.
All right, I don't have to agree with me so quickly. Anyway, it's time
Wait
for
a minute,
break.
wait a minute. You missed me.
I did say you. Clark Gable.
Oh, okay.
What's wrong with you? Just get your ears out a little bit, will you?
Spitting image.
Break time.
Okay, folks, another break. We'll be back shortly.
Stay with Spencer Tracy.
Looking for a good place to have lunch or dinner? Well, I have just the right place for you to go, and that is Sorrento's Village Restaurant and Pizzeria, which is located at 2318 North Manheim Road in Melrose Park. Now, every Friday from 5 p.m. until 8:30 p.m., you can enjoy their all-you-can-eat buffet and pasta bar. A perfect way for families and friends to enjoy a delicious, fresh meal together for just $12.95 for adults and $8.95 for children, 10 years and under. Sorrento's is proud to introduce its Friday night buffet with pasta bar made to order. Fresh pasta with your choice of vodka, four cheese, Alfredo, or marinated sauces, plus Toronto's delicious meatballs and sausage. And a buffet that is bursting with flavors from risotto, seafood, chicken dishes, and a variety of Sorrento's pizza and full salad bar and garlic bread. Again, just $12.95 for adults, $8.95 for children 10 years and under. All you can eat. And you can also enjoy their affordable, fast, perfect, full-service catering. Catering might sound expensive, but when you choose Sorrento's, we do the work and you take the applause for a memorable party for every occasion. Or use one of our beautiful banquet rooms accommodating 20 to 200 people. On Tuesday, purchase a regular soft drink and enjoy the famous buffet at half off. Frank or Sam at area code 847-455-9440. That's Sorrento's Village Restaurant, located at 2318 Manheim Road in Melrose Park. Call 847-455-9440 for the best food in town.
And now, once again, returning back to our moderator, Jack Red Ryan.
It is I, and we're not to the home stretch, we're around the far turn, and we better start the clock again, John. There we go. Oh, that clock. Gotta have a timekeeper here. Okay. Matt Drew,
Yes, sir.
you are here, sir. And you have a book that you've written, Bill? What is this now? Can you tell us about this? Or
That's correct. This is my first novel. It's called Shadows of Chicago. The true story of three men and the crimes that shocked America. I am an active Chicago firefighter, and I teach firefighter classes on the side. And I joined the fire department in 2002. I have 11 years on the job. And I noticed that I was interested in the 1910 Stockyard fire, where a fire commissioner died at a fire, and his name was Jim Horan. Some people like to say Horan, but I talked to his great-grandson, and the Irish pronunciation is Horan. And I was interested in this subject, and I decided to look into it a little bit, and I found out that that 21 firemen did die, and 2 others at the 1910 Stockyard fire. And there were very dangerous times at the time. Right when I was about to get it published, someone suggested that I enter his 2 best friends, which were Mayor Fred Busey at the time, and the other one was Charles Comiskey of the White Sox. And having been a White Sox fan my entire life, I decided to follow through with this, and I think it turned into a much better story and more provocative.
what do you mean? They're all tied in together, or?
Yes, they all grew up around the same time as the Great Chicago Fire. They're all witnesses to it. They played baseball at a park called the Sandlot on the near west side. What we call it the west side now, but back then it was called the southwest side. It was about Old St. Pat's area,
Okay.
Holy Family area. And that's where they all played baseball. And right down the block from their house was the old Larry home where the Great Chicago Fire began. And each of them had different experiences once after that fire. And Jim Horan's family were from Ireland, and Mayor Comiskey, Charles Comiskey, his family is from Ireland as well, and Fred Busey's family is from Germany. And it shows their lives as they progress and get older. And Charles Comiskey, his father John, made a lot of money off the actual fire itself, and the fire. After that Chicago fire happened, Charles decided not to go into that business, the brick business. He decided to get into baseball, and it was his dad called it the frivolous pastime.
Yeah. Now, was the father an alderman at one time?
Yes, he was Alderman John. His nickname was Honest John Comiskey, and yeah, but from what they say, he was honest compared to other politicians at the time. But also, too, he failed to give money to the fire department at the time, and probably the Great Chicago Fire wouldn't have been as tragic as it was.
Well, in those days, didn't they have 2 aldermen for every ward?
That I'm not sure about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What a scary thought that is.
That was changed somewhere in that period of time when they decided they could 1 alderman per ward, and the other alderman became the committeeman. So consequently, the committeeman doesn't get paid, but the alderman did. But the corruption that went on, he got paid anyway.
Well, the committeeman is a party job, isn't that correct?
It's supposed to be completely useless.
Which would you rather be, a committeeman or the alderman?
Well, the committeeman controls the alderman.
Just like I said, which would you rather be?
The catch on that now is a lot of aldermen are committeemen, so it doesn't make any difference.
Richard Jay was mayor of Chicago and head of the Cook County Democrat Committee too.
Yeah.
So.
He got thrown out of one of the conventions too, but that's
Yeah, but he got even.
And go on, Matt.
Yes, please.
Right. We digress.
We do that once in
we
a while.
apologize for that.
That's what happens when you get old. See?
That's right. We all officially apologize.
So is the mayor. Go ahead.
That's all I wanted to add about the baseball. What I find interesting is that in 8 Men Out and a lot of other sources, it shows Charles Comiskey as being this awful guy who failed to give money to these White Sox players, and that's why they decided to throw the World Series in 1919, which wasn't actually the case. You know, these guys were angry that they weren't getting the money that they wanted, but they didn't have to throw the World Series to get their money. And actually, they were getting paid pretty comparable to what other players were at the time. And it kind of gives him a little savings grace there, and you learn a little bit about him and that he is a true person and real proud American and very good towards the cause of World War I.
Now you would think that if people had more wealth, that means they would be totally honest and scrupulous, which just isn't true necessarily, right? If you seen the only reason that they threw it because they were making enough money, which is not a lot of nonsense. A lot of guys could be making money hand over fist and still do something dishonest.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, so yours is like, would you call it a historical novel that ties the people in that way? Or?
Yes, it's a historical nonfiction. It's just a different genre of nonfiction. I tried to describe what places are like at the time. It's not like open up a history book where you might open it up back as we were talking about earlier about Columbus and such. If you were to look at old history books, it's nothing like that. It's given the real true story and how people actually were. Yes, sir.
As far as Comiskey goes, he went into baseball. I believe it was the American Association at the time. Was actually a major league, and he was with the St. Louis team as first baseman. I think it'd be in like the 1880s, maybe.
Yes, he was. He was a first baseman. He was. He really stood out because at the time, first basemen typically stay right by the first base line. They would never venture anywhere else. He would be going into right field. He'd be cheating over to the second base, and he'd be all over the field.
Kind of what people expect of him today.
Exactly. That's what is expected of all players today, that they be aggressive. And
now, so the fire occurred in 1871?
yes.
71. And in the 1880s was that the Haymarket? Was 1881 or somewhere 10 years later?
The gay 80s.
Yeah. So you had that going on that era too with labor unrest and these radicals were meeting for a 40-hour work week.
Yes.
That sort of thing. So, and who are the other two guys now? I'm sorry, we know about Comiskey. His name jumps out.
One is Big Jim Horan.
Horan, yeah.
Yeah, he was a big man. He was between 6'2" and 6'4", and he progressed his way up the fire department. He came from Irish American parents, and he had a pretty poor growing up. And then he moved up the ladder and became commissioner. And he was one of those firemen that, and there are many on the job today that'll actually go into the fires with you. They're chiefs, and they'll jump right in the fire. They'll be right with you, right next to you. And he was that kind of guy. And what happened, unfortunately, in 1910, he responded to a call at the stockyards, and he was warned as soon as he came in that he should back down. And he decided to go forward, which was his way all the time. He felt the best way to always go was forward. And he went forward, and a wall collapsed on all the firefighters below.
So how many died total? 20-something?
21.
In that fire?
In that fire. And it was the most before 9/11. The greatest loss to any fire department.
Now, at 6'4", 6'3", 6'4", he must have been a giant in his day, huh?
He was very big in his day. But you always got to wonder about history, because if they tell you that's the height, could it be that someone said that,
Yeah.
like a Paul Bunyan kind of thing,
Yeah.
you got to wonder sometimes.
It's like program weights and weights and heights,
Right.
They called Marciano 5'10". I don't think he was 5'8". The guys told me, personally. But,
Right.
okay, now he had he been commissioner very long before? Or?
Yeah, he was since 1906. He became the first fire commissioner, but he's always been up there in the ranks. But he started as a menial job. He was just bringing water to the firemen, so he had to start from the very bottom all the way up. At one point, he stopped a truck that was pulled by horses, and he stopped the line on the bit and kept it from being a real bad accident and the fire truck from getting in the accident. He did that as a young kid, and then he started to progress after that.
Okay, so he worked his way, actual fireman in the field, on the line.
Yes.
So we have trouble. There's too many administrators today, and say in the police department, for example, have no idea what's going on in the field. But I can only speak from experience. Would you?
Not only the police department,
No.
Jack.
Is it?
I'm not going to talk about that.
Well, you don't have to. You don't have to.
Oh, you're still working.
I'm
Matt.
active.
97% of the commissioners in the city don't know what's going on. It's just up there, and there's a few that like I said, 97% don't. There's about 3 or 4 that know what's going on.
Well, Tom, can you remember, just an example on the side here, James Conless was superintendent of police, and he refused to believe that there were one-man cars in the traffic division out there? Am I right? This is 1970s?
Yeah, he really didn't have a handle on a lot of things that were going on in the
Yeah, we know.
on the police department. Like
Exactly.
a lot of even our present superintendent doesn't seem to have quite a.
And Conless'
Grasp.
son knew more about the fire department than anybody else on the fire department.
Didn't he?
Yeah, he used to ride with me.
Oh, was he
He's a fire fan.
A fan?
Yeah, he's a fire fan.
And not only is the police and the fire department that way, but the telephone company was the same way. Because you wore a white shirt, you think you are Mr. Bell. And they ask him how to fish a wall or how to hook up a phone. Huh? What did you say? What's that? What do you mean? Yep. Trust me, I had 37 years, and I knew exactly what they said. When you talk about these people that are high echelon, they don't even know what smoke looks like.
Yeah, well, that's a shame. You know, someday we might even have a president that doesn't know what's going on.
That would be dangerous.
Where have you been?
Well,
Where
wouldn't
have you been for the last few
that'd be,
years?
That'd be shocking if that ever happened.
I'll tell you a funny story about telephone. I was in charge of the communication when I worked for the water department over the South Plant. And a guy came in and he says, looks at all the mess of the wires. You know, the wires were there from 48. He said, this place has no logic. I says, logic stopped at the 5th floor. He says, you realize I'm a cousin of Daly's? I said, well, tell Daly I insulted him. He said, we got to stand in line.
Yeah.
Go ahead, man. Keep going.
Just I remember, you mean think of a story now. We had a new commander came into when I was working in Chicago Lawn, and the guy who worked with Bob Davino was driving around. I worked with him in 21, so apparently he told me I'd wrestled. So he comes over and he bothers me. I'm making copies. Oh, did you wrestle? Where'd you wrestle? What was your weight? What did you? And by the way, he said, "Is that stuff phony?" I said, "Well, put it this way, Commander. It's the second phoniest profession I was ever associated with." He says, "What's the first?" It's like, I mean, I thought it was a cute remark, but it was wasted on him. Okay, the third guy. He was a German boy.
Yeah, his name was Fred Busey, and some people call him Fat Freddy. He kind of grew up with the Comiskey and Haran family, and he played baseball with them, but he kind of stayed on the outskirts. He was the kind of person that had a quick temper, and he would throw fists, before he would start talking things out. And he kind of entered politics by accident. He was a businessman. His father owned a coal company. He kind of followed in his father's footsteps. And his father was a Civil War hero at the Battle of Shiloh. And he kind of followed along with his father's footsteps. And at the same time, he started meeting a lot of politicians, Big Bill Thompson, and some very crooked politicians, and he kind of got in that crowd a little bit. Also gangsters. Christian Bernie Burke was one of them, and he kind of met these guys, and then he started visiting the levee. Now, the levee at the time was a very promiscuous area. It was the prostitution was probably the most prevalent in any other part of the world.
You
at
don't
that
have to
time.
explain that to this bunch.
The levee was what, south of what would be the Loop today, somewhere? Or?
Yeah, it was about 23rd and Wabash area.
There you go.
And that was considered a very dangerous spot and a place where you could get pretty much anything you wanted, literally. And he was a frequenter there, and he had kept a couple of whorehouses from getting in any trouble. And but the ironic thing is that as time went by, he got married and married a black poet's daughter. Her name is Josephine Lee. And he kind of changed his stance toward prostitution, either because she was in his ear or I'm not sure, but he ended up starting the Chicago Crime Commission. And the Chicago Crime Commission turned in the Illinois Crime Survey, which found out that there are all these major problems within Chicago and other cities. And so President Taft decided, upon hearing upon this, decided that they should do something about the levee and other red light districts around the country. So inadvertently, he actually stopped all prostitution from being a regular thing within major cities.
You say
So we know how to blame.
There still is a Chicago Crime Commission. Is that the same commission, or is that a different?
It's an off branch of it.
Is that? You know,
Yes.
Okay, that's very interesting.
The guy that's in fact, I think he might have quit, was your old commissioner, superintendent.
Who?
What, the Chicago Crime Commission?
J-Fed.
Oh,
Yeah, when he
Jody
when-
Weiss?
Yeah, when he went when he left the department, he went to head that. I still get their book in the mail, and
well, you know, talking about 2 aldermen for every ward, I know that district that you're talking about, the 2 aldermen that were...
You're talking the first district?
Yeah,
Okay.
the 2 aldermen there, to give you an idea of how colorful it was, Hinky Dink Kenna and Bathhouse John Coughlin. Those were the two aldermen.
Yeah.
They are mentioned a lot in this book as well. They grew up during the Chicago fire. They lived in an area called Connolly's Patch, which was a very seedy Irish area,
Right.
and it burned entirely to the ground the day of the Chicago fire. So it was kind of funny because a lot of these people that lived in the neighborhood kind of scurried throughout the city and kind of caused some trouble throughout the city. And that they were 2 of the biggest ones. Hinky Dink and Kenna used to buy votes, and they used to find drunks in the street and have them vote a number of times. Vote early and often was
I'm
their
glad
con-
that doesn't happen anymore in Chicago.
Right.
Cullerton used to be involved with that too. I forgot the first name. First Cullerton. He was one of the aldermen at that time.
you know, at the police mask last week, there was a couple, and they weren't young, and they had a kid with them, and as I was walking in, introduced himself, and he says, this is my name, and he says, but you'd probably know the name better if I gave you my wife's maiden name. I says, oh, what is that? He says, Cullerton. And I says, oh, one of them? Yes, one of them.
Well, Cullerton
talking
Street,
about
right?
Cullertons. Why, yeah.
Cullerton played a shrewd one, though. He bought the property where Ogden Avenue went through originally, the Old Town area, and he sold the property to the city and made a bundle of money. And of course,
What's so new about that?
Yeah, I know. But then they named the street, I think 20.
Cullerton?
Yeah, was it
Yeah.
21st Street or something like that?
Somewhere on there, 21st Place or something.
21st.
Yeah.
I don't have my street guy with me. But, so all this, so it really seemed like there's nothing new under the sun in one sense. Maybe we just know about today through the 24-hour news services, and, well, we do know, I mean, your neighbors wouldn't believe, some of the things that we know of. We can't prove it, but, we do know of things out there that, I mean, you don't have to necessarily prove that your congressman's a crook to know he's a crook. But I think there's so often, like Bill, yourself, or Tom and myself, having been on the job, we can see a story and look at what's strictly BS in it. You can it reeks of it.
You know what? When I had my agency going, I did a lot of divorce work, and I remember one of the divorce judges. I don't remember his name. I wouldn't tell you anyway what his name was, but he just looked at this one couple and he said, "You know what? There's 3 sides to every story: yours, and the truth."
Yeah.
And that is so true.
Mm-hmm.
That is so true. And we all know that. We all know that. It's interesting to hear of something happen, an event or whatever, and then try to figure out, well, what really happened there.
Well, my favorite judicial story is a judge comes out on the bench and he says, the counsel to the plaintiff, he says, "Counselor," I have a confession to make. He says, prior to this hearing, your opposing counsel came into my chambers and gave me an envelope containing $1,500. And as you're well aware, yesterday we met for lunch and you gave me an envelope containing $1,500. So I guess I'm going to have to decide this case on its merits.
The other thing about newspaper articles, I was out in Humboldt Park area one time, and I seen this roaring fire, big apartment building on fire and stuff like that. And I was watching it for a while, and went home and read about it in the paper next day, and I could have swore I was at a different location.
Oh, yeah, that's the truth.
They had
I don't know about that.
what did they call it yesterday at Humboldt Park?
Yeah,
They had a name for it.
Riot Fest.
right.
The Riot Fest, and one of the girls that waited on me this morning was there all 3 days. So you can imagine what kind of a girl this was.
What kind?
And and I said, anything happen? And I mean, you mentioned Humboldt Park in my day, you know.
I was
Yeah,
there
arm
for, I was there
yourself.
for the original Riot Fest.
So was I, Tom. Yeah. And she says, "Oh no," she says, "it was wonderful. They, you know, and they only took like 6 people away, I guess,
Wow.
which is probably a record."
Well, I know that my wife, we went down to St. Mary Nazareth Hospital, and they say when the Puerto Rican, they call Independence Day, they had to get the emergency room all set up because they had gunshot wounds and stab wounds and everything on
yeah.
real strong.
Yeah. Yes, St. Mary's and the other one across the
Elizabeth.
street,
Elizabeth.
Nazareth, Elizabeth. Yeah,
Yeah, they're all one now.
that was a wonderful experience. That division in Western. It was 10
Okay.
years on 57.
Matt, your book is published. It's out now.
It's out now. It's been out for a few weeks now. We had a celebration at on the south side at Quigley's Irish Pub. It was a great success, and it's on Amazon,
Okay, I was going to say, yeah. it was
Black Oak Media, and Barnes and Noble. It should be sold at the stores too pretty soon.
What's the name of it?
The name of the book is called Shadows of Chicago. And one other thing I wanted to note.
Trade paperback?
Yeah, this
Trade
is.
paperback, oh, yeah.
Yeah. And one other thing I wanted to mention to Dave is what's interesting in that I do have a section in here about the Native Americans of Chicago. It's in the 6th chapter. It's called the Cursed First Ward. So actually the First Ward began with a series of false promises. You probably heard of what they call as the Fort Dearborn Massacre. Some say it was a massacre, others believe it wasn't a massacre at all. And it was the angered Potawatomi Indians were mad because this one captain was supposed to give them a bunch of ammunition and give them a bunch of whiskey, and he failed on that promise. So they got this guy Billy Wells to come. He was a good warrior himself. He was a white man trained by the Miami Indians, and he had red hair, so they call him Carrot Top as a name, a nickname.
Get used to it.
So he led a bunch of he tried to lead the people from the Fort Dearborn area to the east, where there was a friendly outpost to the east, and they didn't make it very far. They made it to about Roosevelt and Michigan Avenue, and they fought the Miami, and many of the people that. Or they fought the Potawatomi, but the Miami that helped escort him kind of took off on him. So he ended up just fighting off a bunch of people, and Captain Billy Wells was knocked on the ground and his heart ripped out, and they ate his heart right there on the battlefield and to acquire some of his bravery. But he supposedly hacked away at Indian women and children as well as some of the other people. So what really happened there is really uncertain, and it kind of goes with the history of Chicago. You never know what you're going to get, and you never know about what's true and what's not. You know,
What year would this have been? Around the time of the Revolution? Or?
yeah, this is before. This is 1812.
Yeah.
So this is
1812,
after
okay.
the Revolution.
So this was the Northwest Territory at the
French
time.
Indian War, they call it. Yeah.
Yeah.
The was quite a lot of things going on in 1812, and was battles all over the states, and not all of them were necessarily
No,
related.
French Indian War was before that, wasn't it?
They had
Yeah, before the Revolution.
It's the War of 1812 around
Yeah,
that
War of
time.
1812.
Yeah,
We were actually
1812.
allies of Napoleon there. So.
Yeah, Napoleon was another character.
Well, you get the last word on that, Al, because we're getting to the very, very end. Keep on going. Whoa, we're not getting to the end. You see?
Five
You can't
minutes.
believe anything we say around here. Anyway, so at that time, Chicago wasn't Chicago yet, am I right? 1812?
No, it was just an outpost.
Yeah,
It was
1933. became
was the 100th
Chicago.
anniversary.
Yeah,
Century
well,
of Progress.
That's it.
1833.
1833.
1833 became a city. 1933 Century of Progress.
Yeah.
And they counted the votes twice in order to get themselves as a city instead of a village.
Well, you
yeah.
know, whatever it takes, right? It makes me-
Visitors were counted. You know.
That makes me think of before, we were going back before, Dave, we're talking about different aspects of the exploration and settlement. When I was in the police academy for that great Spanish class, the instructor, Raul Banos, wanted us to give us a talk in Spanish on part of the uniform, so I chose the shield. We're going to go what the shield looks like. It has, there's an eagle, there's a little baby being born on top of a, I guess it's real symbolic, goes back to like a conch shell, or not, like a half shell, almost like a giant oyster.
Yeah.
And there's a ship coming in, an old galleon or something, and there's an American Indian chief with a full headdress. He's looking out over the. So I'm describing all this, but I said in Spanish, I said, "Que dice este indio when he sees, what does this Indian say? This Presidente de los Indians say when he sees the ship coming in, you know, full of people from from Europe, and I put in Africa, and I says maybe he says this. I wrote, I'm not going to say the whole thing, but in English it would be, there goes the bleeping neighborhood. Was my punchline there. So, I ve el barrio, and I'm not going to say the last word.
We have a member of the the board of directors of the museum who is an ex-copper, and he is a custard buff, and he goes out there every year, I guess, and he just loves it. Well, years ago, when my kid and I were hunting out there, why we would always stop at Custer's, you know, at
Which
the
is
battleground in
is that in Montana?
South Dakota.
Was it? Oh.
And
Montana.
we went out there and we found a lead bullet
Yeah.
from there. You still find a lot of stuff, and Mike has got a table full of stuff that he's found from
Yeah.
that.
It's illegal to take that stuff. You realize that?
You
the
know,
rest.
does anybody have any Scotch tape that we could put on his mouth?
Watergate tape.
They want to give it. Now they're talking about a referendum. They want to give the land back to the Indians.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why they want it, but they.
I mean, after the
Give it back to
politicians,
him with the tax bill too.
when they call the area the Badlands, they really were rough, tough place, aren't they?
yeah.
Is it rough? Have you been
I was
that
out
way,
there,
or-
and I didn't. I,
No?
I'm not sure about the Dakota. I went there once. But yeah, they say like there's a big thing about the Black Hills situation. But yeah, they say all the natural resources are pumped out, so it's, you know,
Oh, so you can have it back.
yeah, there you go. We're
Oh,
done
that's
with
what
it.
I figured.
It's tough land out there. It really
it's cold in the winter and hot in the summer.
Well, this is Chicago. It's the same way here.
yeah, but there's no.
You know, if you
there's
can't
nothing to
stand
stop.
it here, you aren't going to stand it out there either.
But there's nothing to break the wind out there. It's all open land, and the wind comes through. You know about it.
Not nice to break wind either.
Yeah, well, you always break wind.
Well, at least we've got this. The lake here does make a difference. Go down to St. Louis in the summer, huh? Sweltering. And,
Oh,
you all right?
absolutely.
You cut that with a knife, I swear. The atmosphere
knife.
there.
We're very lucky here in Chicago.
Well, you know,
we
I
have
mean,
a lot
you know,
of water.
Right. Well, you talk about weather. No matter where you're at in the country, you know, I look at these disasters. I mean, where's it? Colorado was
Never
flooding.
thought Colorado
The
would be like that.
forest fires and brush fires out in
Yeah.
California. I always said I'd like to go stand in the middle of all those disasters, and the first person I see, I ask him, "Yeah, let's hear it now about how can you take those Chicago winters?"
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
at least my house never floated away.
Is there?
So no matter where, I mean, no matter where you are, you're going to run into.
I
Well,
did my basic at Fort Carson, and I just, you know, to think back then, and then to look at what's happening there now, it's unbelievable. What happened, you know?
One of the nicest weather places I went to was the Azores. Never got below 40, and never got above 80. And What's the only problem? Once in a while, a hurricane passed through, but
Yeah.
all the houses were built out of stone, so it didn't make any difference.
They did talking about California, Redwood City, California. The slogan on their, welcome to Redwood City. Their slogan is "Weather's best by government test." They did a test to find out the most moderate climate in the United States, and that's where it was. That Central Coast.
I like
a hot day is 80, a cold day is 60.
I like San Diego. It was
Yeah,
like
right.
that. Yeah, San Diego was good.
Yeah.
Good weather.
We were out there, I think it was 2005, we were out there. We used to pick a place, and when the kids were still living in the East, we'd pick a spot and we'd all go, taking a Sox game when they were visiting there and taking, the town. And we were in June in San Diego, and they were apologizing to us because they're June gloom. What are you apologizing for, says I? It's beautiful here. Matter of fact, one of our guys from school, Don Rogers, he went in the Marine Corps and he settled there, stayed there. Like our friend Mike Tynan, he settled in Tampa. So now we're getting a 3-minute sign. So before we get too much into it, I want to...
It's Dave. How did the Indians weather through these storms and snow and cold and
Oh, we're immune.
There was no air conditioning and
You don't think about it, right? That's just it.
Yeah, I guess traditionally we just stay to create for another day.
Oh, sure. Sure. What else can you do?
What about these big blazes? Is there anything to compare that you've ever had a fight here?
I tell you what, a forest fire, what they've had out there is one of the worst that you can work at. It just, they're very treacherous, and you see the 19 guys that got killed.
Yeah, well, the problem with forest fires is they try to control it, and then the environmentalists come in. You say you can't do that.
You can't
and,
get water out of here.
They
'cause
don't
of
come
minnows.
around there during the fire, though.
No,
They don't
no.
come around
But
there.
they
They
don't
don't
want you-
have water. We are so lucky. We got Lake
Yeah.
Michigan, and with the hydrant system that we have here, that saves us.
It's good for the dogs,
It
too.
absolutely, yes. It absolutely saves us because we've got the best system around.
Okay, you get the last word, Bill.
Well,
That's
that
it for
is my
today.
last word.
Now, before we sign off, I forgot one thing to mention. Today is the 16th of September, Mexican Independence Day, and the next broadcast will be on the 21st of our recording session on the 21st of October. If anyone would like to call us or something, go on the website and you can get info at WindyCityHometown.com and let us your phone number. Let us know what you want to talk about or if you have any comment on the programs.
We want some ideas.
That's right. We need them. So anyway, this is the old redhead saying, remember, history is much more than a book you keep on the shelf. Mr. McKenna?
Once again, thank you for listening. And just a reminder, Meet the Chicago Historians is pre-recorded and can be heard over this station as well as on WindyCityHometown.com. Thank you for listening. This is your announcer, Tom McKenna.
You have been listening to Meet the Chicago Historians from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network on Monday, September 16th, the year 2013. This broadcast was produced and directed by John DeVita, edited by Stephen Lehman, and our audio engineer is James Rohde. This program was pre-recorded. Thanks for listening.